that this is not a anti-Shia movement, rather this is a Shia reform movement. Minus, so what does he do then? Yeah, if Imam Ali stopped there and said, because you didn't follow the procedure, I am not going to give you bay'ah until the day I die. That's different. He didn't do that.
No, then that would be also our mawqif,
which an insider would have to do. But yet we have al-Mu'mineen Aisha narrating it, but and the Shia are like treating it like it's Imam like the Shia are treating it like Imam Ali said this. How come the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif doesn't seem to reflect Sayyidah Zahra's anger?
This is the same Imam Hussain, unfiltered, non-taqiyya narrative he's giving you here.
You were sidelined.
Yeah, we were sidelined, but then later on he says faradina. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam says, so may Allah shower his mercy on them. May Allah have mercy on them. He says, وَحُجُورٌ طَابَتْ وَطَهُرَتْ. It's because of the pure lap that I was raised in. وَلَكِنْ مَا تَقُولُ فِي هَذَيْنِ الرَّجُلَيْنِ الظَّالِمَيْنِ أَبِي بَكْرٍ وَعُمَرٍ. This sounds like Yasir al-Habib, wallahi. لَا تَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. Don't speak about them anything except good. فَإِنِّي لَا أَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. What should our mawqif as Shia? Because we are your Shia, ya Imam Ja'far. So you tell us, what should our stance be towards the Shaykhayn? The Imam says, تَوَلِّيهِمَا. Yeah, he's ashiq. He's majnoon in the ishq of...
Without the ghulu, huh? Majnoon without the ghulu, huh?
Majnoon without the ghulu, yeah, without the raft, mashallah.
Yeah, without the raft, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Respected brothers and sisters, elders, youngers, thank you for joining us today on this Al-Islah show. Today I have with me Dr. Sayyid Ali Hur Kamanpuri Hafidullah. Sayyid, thank you for joining us today. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Pleasure as usual.
Thank you, Sayyid, so much for joining us today. Sayyid, today and the audience, we today are on a special show today. It's kind of a link towards our previous discussions that we've been having on Kitab Salaim and the event of Sayyidah Zahra's Shahada that the Shia Imamiyah claim. So, alhamdulillah, we've generally dealt with Kitab Salaim and generally where this kind of accusation came from and addressed it with to our best of our ability with justice. What is like a continuation to that is what I hear from the people that I speak to and what I see is that a lot of Shia and a lot of people, they seem to be quite confused, or at least they have some sort of doubt, or they want to figure out. Sometimes we'll say Abu Bakr's name, we'll say Umar's name, we'll say Hadrat, or we'll say Radullah Anhu, and they get really confused about this issue. And rightfully so, coming from a Shia background, this is not generally the norm in the Shia background to be, using these terms or honorific terms for them, unless, a sort of diplomatic approach is applied. So naturally for us, when we say these terms, we are trying to be, because the whole point of Al-Islah is trying to be and go towards being the early Shia. See, the whole point of Al-Islah, and Sayyid Ali Hur, you can correct me if I've, misrepresent Al-Islah, but you would agree, right? The whole point of Al-Islah is to go and become like the early Shia of Imam Ali. True?
100%. Our aim and our goal is to invite people to the real Tashayyu' and the real school of Ahlul-Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, which is a beautiful, ghulu-free understanding of Islam and the Quran, free from, sectarian and, ghali additions.
Yeah, so as that's our aim, so our aim on whether it's the Shaykhayn or other issues or, any other issue you want to look at that the Shias kind of deal with, we want to be emulating and being part of the early Muslim Shia community and holding those views. So, I don't feel like I need to say this or elaborate, but I think it's important to say it just so that sometimes people can hear it, which is, this is not some anti-Shia movement. I've been making this point to a lot of my friends and elders and my even teachers recently, that this is not a anti-Shia movement, rather this is a Shia reform movement. There's a big difference. A Shia reform movement wants to help the Shias rather than disrespect them, mock them, or put them down. At times, we might get passionate, we might refute, we might critique based on our love of Tashayyu, because if you love something and you see it get corrupted, you get more angry. So naturally, our channel here is a reform movement where we want to bring Shiism back to its original form, not get rid of Shiism.
Exactly. We want to align ourselves with the actual historical teachings and worldview of the Imams of AhlulBayt alayhim salatu wasalam. And I can assure you, Sayyid Raza, that in every stance that we articulate, our best and sincere effort is to reflect and refract the correct teaching of the AhlulBayt alayhim salatu wasalam, who are the family of the Prophet, who are the beloveds of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because wallahi, the khair of this ummah and the khair of dunya and akhirah lies in following their guidance and what they transmit from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
And I think to add to that, I think that another reason for sometimes you could say some sort of frustration, or at least I can speak for myself, is some sort of frustration towards maybe the Shia, maybe the scholars, or the way our community has become and the beliefs that are kind of told on the member, is because based on these issues, you've got other people that are outside of Shiism, which is the mainstream of the Sunni community. We hinder them to learn what real Shiism was about based on our current beliefs. So when they come near us, they're like, I don't want nothing to do with you people because of the way that Shiism is today. If we had presented to them original Shiism, Sunnis would love and embrace, the Sunnis would embrace you and say, I can accept that, or I want to even join that. But because you've presented Shiism in such a ghulu, distorted form, we are now being mocked, as in sometimes it's better that we fix ourselves rather than the person outside mocks you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a tragedy that if you do a word association test with the average Muslim in the Muslim Ummah, word association test with Shi'ism, what comes to your mind? What images, what ideas, what concepts? Ya akhi, ya sayyidi, it is all of those things that are not established to be from the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt. Cursing Sahaba, bad-mouthing, mudslinging, self-flagellation, extreme rituals, bloodletting, none of which is the teaching and guidance of the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimus salam.
When your mind should have gone towards Ammar bin Yasir, Abu Dhar, Malik al-Ashtar, these people weren't doing this.
Absolutely.
So there.
And in the case of those people who are sensitized to Tawheed, when they hear of Shi'ism, the first thing that they think about is basically shirk and idol worship, and of a different kind, of course, not explicit idol worship, but basically the kind that Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam warned when he said that don't take us as idols, okay, don't love us. أحبونا حب الإسلام ولا تحبونا حب الأوثان. Love us with the love of Islam and not the love of idol worshippers, whereby you try to place us on the same pedestal as God, or try to give attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, or you pray and do istighatha to us. This is what unfortunately traditional 12-er Shi'ism has become known for in the Ummah.
And you know what's interesting here is that the first thing, these again, today we're going to inshallah talk about the Shaykhayn and the Shia stance on them. But the first thing, al-awwalan, that we should be focusing on, and that should be the primary focus constantly, should be Tawheed and asking Allah alone. Because aslan, this is the foundation of this religion. These extra points we have to clarify because it's important, because we've been raised with something and there's a problem and we need to put a narrative out there and teach people the actual view on the Ahlul-Bayt, at least according to our research. But this Tawheed and stuff like that, and the Quran-centric Tawheed, essentially people should think about the Shia and think of, they are pure Muwahideen. So this is something that we need to fix, and that's very important. And that was the first thing you came out and focused on, Sayyid Ali, on al-Islah. That was the main thing you came out and focused on, and inshallah we will get back to that as well. That's important.
Absolutely. Tawheed is key, but at the same time, unity in the Ummah and cordial relations and mutual understanding, instead of the hostility and hatred and ill will that you see today, dividing and fueling tensions between Shias and Sunnis. This is not what the Ummah needs. The Ummah needs to come together on a common.
And this is not the way of Ahlul-Bayt.
100%, 100%.
And that's what we're going to test today, Sayyid.
Today, inshallah, hopefully, with your help, I want to show our audience that until now, they used to think that, look, in order to, because today we are speaking completely in line with the guidance that has come from the highest level traditional 12-verse scholarship, the Marji'iyah. The Marji'iyah is always so desperately campaigning and trying to convince Shias that they should be respectful and reverential when it comes to the icons, the revered icons and sacred icons of the Ummah, like the Shaykhayn, like al-Mu'minin Aisha, like others. But the public somehow has this impression that we cannot observe this guidance unless we adopt taqiyya. We want to show you today that no, actually showing respect and even tawalli towards the icons of the Ummah, such as the Shaykhayn in particular, is not something, it's not a taqiyya based stance that you have to, be a hypocrite, or you have to keep one thing in your heart and another on your mouth, but rather, if you really align yourself with the actual historical stance of the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, you can actually very easily follow the guidelines of your own maraja without having to resort to any taqiyya, because when they tell you to respect and show reverence for the icons of the Ummah, they are not telling you anything that the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimussalam themselves did not practically demonstrate. This is something that the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimussalam personified and that they actively preached. So why should we have to you don't need taqiyya, you don't have to hide behind anything or play a double game. The stance of the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimussalam on this is very clear in their actual teachings, which are preserved across the sectarian sources, and that's what we want to highlight, that's what we want to showcase, and we also want to explain where the other narrative is coming from, the narrative that contradicts the stance of the Ahlul-Bayt.
So basically today what we're going to be doing is, in a nutshell, is we will be going to, as you could call it, like a conclusion of essentially the Fatimiyya series kind of thing, which is basically, we've dealt with what happened with Sayyidah Zahra. We dealt with the accusation on Hazrat Umar that, astaghfirullah, he martyred her. We've dealt with that and called that out fabrication. We've also dealt with potential altercation that happened outside the house and says, this is more in line with the early Shia. This is more possible. And then now we want to deal with basically, so what was, because some people have said to me, but Raza, you're potentially saying a threat did happen outside the house, but then you're still showing them respect. So even that doesn't add up to us, which is understandable because they might not know the sources that we know. So today we want to deal with what was the early Shia mawqif, and by early Shia mawqif I mean what was the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif, and then the early Shia's mawqif on the Shaykhayn. And what if you want to be a real Shia, again, for me, all of this research is based on being a real Shia. If the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif was super anti-Shaykhayn, then I would be super anti-Shaykhayn. It's not a problem. But the
and
problem
so would I.
Yeah, it's not. We have no issue with that. And in fact, 5 years ago, I was like that. So if anyone if anyone wants to see me, go check my videos 5 years ago. You'll find exactly what I was like. I'm not promoting that, but it's a reality. Do you get it?
Our mantra is, in this matter, really is genuinely silmul liman salamakum wa harbul liman harabakum. We are at peace with whomsoever the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimussalatu make peace with. And we declare war on whomsoever the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimussalatu declare war on. It's as simple as that.
So therefore, if someone wants to, now based on the research and based on another kind of contextual evidences of why I've changed, today should be interesting because I want to be able to present the evidences of Sayyidah Zahra, of her issue with the Shaykhayn, then what, Imam Hussain, Imam AhlulBayt, Imam Zayd, the early AhlulBayt, the Shia, and what their mawqif was and what they said about the Shaykhayn and what they said about the issues that they had with the AhlulBayt. Because we, as you will see inshallah by today's conclusion, that they were indeed problems and issues with the Shaykhayn, and there were shortcomings from the Shaykhayn towards the AhlulBayt. But how did the AhlulBayt handle that? And what was the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif on the Shaykhayn after all that? Because we don't want a mawqif of, but the Shaykhayn done this, we done the Shaykhayn. We know, and we're going to address those indirectly or touch upon those. The Ahlul-Bayt know what the Shaykhayn have done in terms of shortcomings towards them. But what was the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif after that? So it's like me saying, al-Mu'mineen for Imam Ali. Yeah, we know that. We're not, we're Shia. We're not, some Sunnis might not know that, but we know this. But how did Imam Ali deal with that?
Right.
So don't just give half the story and say Abu Bakr didn't give Fadak. That's fine. But actually, that's a good one, because they can hit back on that and say, yeah, but then this is why we say she died angry. So I'm not going to get into too much. Now we're going to start on that now. With all let's start on that, Sayyid. Do Bismillah on that, where we basically start off with the narration that's presented, the common first ishkal that is narrated on this, that is in everyone's head, Sayyid, which is Sayyidah Zahra Salamu Alayha, because the first important part of Ahlul-Bayt is Sayyidah Zahra, and the Shia's love and muhabba for Sayyidah Zahra is unmatched, and they have a lot of love and tawalla towards Sayyidah Zahra, which is amazing that the Shias have kept this alive, and it should be like that. And they, due to this, based on a narrative that we have that's narrated, and the narration is in most sources, and it's narrated by Bibi Aisha, which is that she died angry with Hazrat Bakr due to the issue of Fadak, and he was not invited to the funeral, and she was buried that night. This is the narration, Sayyid, I want to get into, because this is the narration that's generally used to say, how can you have tawalla with the Shaykhayn when Sayyidah Zahra died angry with them? That's the direct ishkal, and anyone who's a Shia, even me, I still feel that ishkal, and only based on this new research and everything that we've looked into, which is I'm like, okay, I can see a different angle here. So I think, Sayyid, we need to shed light on this narration and deal with this mawqif of what happened, how much of this is true, and how do we get around this?
Exactly. I'm very glad that you've raised this up and given me the opportunity to clarify this, because our narrative is not, we don't believe in Sunni or Salafi attempts to whitewash or sugarcoat history, which is what we find their polemicists often doing at times. There is no need to hide real history or cover it up or keep it under wraps. The sources are very clear, but you need to have a nuanced position. I really love the example of al-Mu'mineen Aisha herself, which you gave, which is that it's not sufficient for you to just highlight that she fought a battle of Jamal with Imam Ali alayhi salam. We all know that. But then as a Shia, if you're a true follower of Imam Ali alayhi salam, what you need to ask yourself is that after the battle was over, no one denies in this ummah that that battle was a mistake on the part of al-Mu'mineen Aisha. It was a mistake. It was wrong of her. It was an act of aggression on her part. All of that is accepted. It's undisputed. The issue for the Shia is when you're going to you're going to define your stance. You can't define it or determine it on the basis of your own emotions. You have to look at what the Imam's mawqif and stance is. Did Imam Ali alayhi salam spend the rest of his life after the Battle of Jamal cursing and abusing and insulting al-Mu'mineen Aisha?
In fact, he's praised for not doing that. He's praised by the Ummah for not doing that.
Exactly. Or did he pardon her and then send her back to her home with the highest degree of respect? So if the Imam at the end of Jamal is showing respect to her, then from where do you, the follower, get the right to insult or curse or abuse or use inappropriate language, to slander her, as some have done, the ghulat especially, to do all of that? No. If you're a true Shia of Imam Ali alayhi salam, your mawqif, your stance, your approach, your behavior, your mindset should be in tune. It should be on the same wavelength as that of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam.
If you want to be a real Shia of Ali, if you want to have your own mawqif and say, listen, I'm a Shia, but I'm going to do my own thing, Bismillah.
Yeah, if you're a freelancer,
do your thing.
Yeah, do your
own thing. Then don't say you're Shia. Then stop saying you're Shia.
Yeah, because then you bring disrepute to Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Yeah, say I'm part of say I can't handle it. I still can't handle it. I'm part of the ghulat. I want to curse. Astaghfirullah, do your thing. But then don't say you're Shia of Ali.
Yeah, because the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt have already appealed to you. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam fil Hadith al-Sahih, Sahih Sanad narration, authenticated by Ayatollah Shaykh Bakr al-Irwani. He says, Kunu lana zaynan. You Shia, be a source of adornment and beauty for us. Wala takunu alayna shayna. Don't be a source of humiliation and blemish for us. Don't be a stain on our character. Your akhlaq, your behavior, your mannerisms, the way you deal with the historical figures of this ummah, this is all going to reflect on the Ahlul-Bayt alayhi salam. So Imam Ja'far alayhi salam used to say that if your mawqif is something that the ummah can look at and appreciate and admire, the ummah will say, Rahimallahu Ja'faran. Ma ahsana ma kana yu'addib ashaba. May Allah shower His mercy on Imam Ja'far. Look at what beautiful training he has given to his followers. But if you don't do that, They will say, فَعَلَ اللَّهُ بِجَعْفَرٍ مَا أَسْوَأَ مَا كَانَ يُؤَدِّبُ أَصْحَابَهُ. They will say bad words about me, and they will say, look at what evil training he has given to his followers. So you first make your choice, make up your mind, make up your bed, and then sleep in it. Do you want to be a Shia of Ahlul-Bayt, or do you want to be a Shia of your own hawa and your own vain desires?
Yeah, that, once you set that mabna, then we can move from there.
Right. So at Al-Islah, our membership has already determined and decided, they've made up their mind. We want the tashayyu' of Ali alayhi salatu wasalam.
Yeah.
So now our mawqif has to be the same as that of the Ahlul-Bayt alayhi salam. With regard to the narration that you mentioned,
yes,
it is the narration of Sahih al-Bukhari.
Okay.
And I hope I'm able to share it with you on the screen, inshallah, so that everyone can see it. This is Sahih al-Bukhari. I've brought the Arabic English version so that our English viewership can follow with us.
Very nice.
Okay, so this is volume 5. It's translated by Dr. Muhammad Muhsin Khan. It's the Dar es-Salaam edition, one of the best editions. And so if we can come to page 332 of this scan, it's actually in book 64, the book of Al-Maghazi, Kitab Al-Maghazi. Here is the narration. It is 4,240 and 4,241 of this is the international numbering. If people want to locate it and read it. It's a long narration, but it's narrated by Aisha radiyallahu anha that Fatima alayha salam, you can see even Imam Bukhari, he maintains this distinction. People think alayhi salam is an exclusively Shia thing.
It's nice that the English translators translated that as well. Nice.
Yes, because that's how it appears in the original. And Aisha anna Fatimata alayha salam. So alayha salam, sometimes our Salafi or Sunni brothers, they're like, what is alayhi salam? You know, you just say radiyallahu anhu. No. Your Imam, this is your Imam here, Bukhari. He uses alayha salam for the Ahlul-Bayt. And you should have no problem saying alayhi salam for the Ahlul-Bayt or alayha salam, because you say it anyway in salawat, in tashahhud. Don't you say Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad? And Fatima alayha salam is foremost in the Ali Muhammad.
And
so,
yeah,
so that was just a side point. So Fatima alayha salam, the daughter of the Prophet, sent someone to Abu Bakr when he was caliph, asking for her inheritance of what Allah's messenger had left of the property bestowed on him by Allah from the faith, that is booty gained from fighting, without fighting, in Al-Madinah, and also fadak. So she wanted her share in the booty that was gained without fighting, what is known as fay in the language of the Quran, ma afa Allahu ala rasulihi. And also she wanted her share from fadak, and she wanted what remained of the khumus of Khaybar, the Khaybar booty. So on that, Abu Bakr said, Allah's messenger said, our property is not inherited. Whatever we leave is sadaqah, charity, but the family of the Prophet can eat of this property. That is the public property, basically. And then he says, by Allah, I will not make any change in the state of the sadaqah of Allah's messenger, and will leave it as it was during the lifetime of Allah's messenger, and will dispose of it as Allah's messenger used to do. So Abu Bakr refused to give anything of that to Fatima. Now this part of the narration, as you can see, mentions the Fadak dispute, which is a separate series and lecture that we can discuss some other time, inshallah ta'ala, to explain to you what the stance of the Ahlul-Bayt was, what the stance of the caliphs was. But it is established that this was a point of dispute between them. Even Bukhari is acknowledging that, the narration of Bukhari. And the daughter of Abu Bakr, Al-Mu'mineen Aisha, is narrating this. Now this is the part that everyone in the Shia public knows, and this is the part that is always quoted, right? I've highlighted it. So in the Arabic it says فَوَجَدَتْ فَاطِمَةُ عَلَى أَبِي بَكْرٍ فِي ذَلِكَ فَهَجَرَتْهُ فَلَمْ تُكَلِّمْهُ حَتَّى تُوفِّيَتْ. So she became angry with Abu Bakr because he refused to give her what she was demanding of her rights. So she became angry with Abu Bakr and kept away from him, and did not talk to him till she died. And remember whose testimony this is. Who is testifying that she didn't talk to Abu Bakr until the end? It is al-Mu'mineen Aisha. This is not the testimony of Imam Ali alayhi salam, or Imam Hassan alayhi salam, or Imam Hussain alayhi salam, or any of the early Ahlul-Bayt, but rather this is the testimony of al-Mu'mineen Aisha. She is saying that she did not talk to him until she died. She remained alive for 6 months after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When she died, her husband Ali buried her at night without informing Abu Bakr, and he offered the funeral prayer by himself. He did not invite Abu Bakr to it, but interestingly, he didn't invite anyone. There were Shia companions, proto-Shia as they're called, Ammar, Salman. There is no mention of. So it was a very private affair. Her death and her funeral, it was undertaken at home itself. And then obviously, I don't want to go outside to other narrations because right now we are focusing here in terms of where she was buried and what happened to her grave and all of that. So when Fatima was alive, the people used to respect Ali much. But after her death, Ali noticed a change in the people's attitude towards him. So you see, a lot of our awam, the general public, they say, okay, so Bukhari, al-Mu'mineen Aisha is being quoted in Bukhari as testifying to the fact that Sayyidah Fatima died. She first became angry with Abu Bakr, okay? And then she remained away from him. She did not talk to him until she died. And that was for the entire duration of the 6 months that she survived after the Prophet. And then when she died, Imam Ali alayhi salam buried her secretly at night without informing Abu Bakr, and he offered the funeral prayer by himself. So this shows you that Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha was angry. And the claim of al-Mu'mineen Aisha is that she's angry until the end, until the very end. So for a Shia, then it becomes very easy on the basis of this to say that, well, then this is my stance. And indeed, we see some later on, we see Shia speaking like this. For example, in the Zaydi sect, saying that, we are angry for her anger. So our mawqif will be defined by this mawqif of Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha, which is being reported by al-Mu'mineen Aisha. But then our issue is that if you're going to go by this narration, the narration doesn't end here. It continues that when Fatima was alive, the people used to respect Ali much. But after her death, Ali noticed a change in the people's attitude towards him. So Ali alayhi salam sought reconciliation with Abu Bakr and gave him the bay'ah, gave him the pledge. Ali alayhi salam had not given the bay'ah pledge during those months, the 6 months, the period between the Prophet's death and Fatima's death. So Ali alayhi salam sent someone to Abu Bakr saying, come to us, but let nobody come with you, as he disliked that Umar should come. Umar said to Abu Bakr, no, by Allah, you shall not enter upon them alone. Abu Bakr said, what do you think they will do to me? By Allah, I will go to them. So Abu Bakr entered upon them. And then Ali uttered the tashahhud and said to Abu Bakr, we know well your superiority, your fada'il is what it mentions in the قَدْ عَرَفْنَا فَضْلَكَ. We know your fada'il, your virtues, your excellencies, your contributions to Islam. Okay, they have translated it as superiority, which is afdaliyah. That's not the Arabic.
It's more like merit,
Yeah, we know your merit. We don't deny that you have merits. Okay. وَمَا أَعْطَاكَ اللَّهُ, and also what Allah has blessed you with in terms of blessings. So, but the reason why all these 6 months, why did Imam Ali alayhi salam not give bay'ah?
Yeah, this is the time when Imam Ali should be saying, because I was chosen by God.
No.
I'm saying this would be the time where Imam Ali would be like, the reason why I haven't given you bay'ah is because Allah and Rasul chose me. This would be the time.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying, is that he didn't believe in this. Even if you go by this narrative of Bukhari, which our Shia community members, this narration is highly trusted by them, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is one of their most trusted narrations, apparently. They love to quote it. They don't get tired of quoting it. But they don't quote it in full usually, I guess, because these parts are rather inconvenient.
Which one? Yeah, what is this part? But we are not jealous of the good that Allah has bestowed upon you, but...
Yeah, basically this whole narrative of Imam Ali alayhi salam giving bay'ah, even though it's also mentioned in our Shia sources.
No, but the bay'ah is good. But say, go back to that part. The bay'ah is good. I want to go back to this part. But what is Imam Ali's answer here? We are not jealous of the good. Yeah.
Yeah, so he says, وَلَمْ نَنْفَسْ عَلَيْكَ خَيْرًا سَاقَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. He says, you see, the thing is that the reason why we didn't give bay'ah all these 6 months, you might be thinking because we have some kind of personal rivalry against you. We have a problem that, the Khilafah has come to you now instead of us. So that's why, we are sulking and we're staying away from giving you bay'ah, and, we are angry and upset. But he says, look, none of this is not the actual reason. Let me tell you why we didn't give you the bay'ah for all these 6 months. وَلَكِنَّكَ اسْتَبْدَدْتَ عَلَيْنَا بِالْأَمْرِ. He says the issue we have is that when you had the shura, the consultation in Saqifa between the Muhajirin and Ansar, which finally resulted in the Muslim ruler being chosen, اسْتَبْدَدْتَ عَلَيْنَا بِالْأَمْرِ. You did not include us, the Banu Hashim and the Ahlul-Bayt of the Prophet, in the deliberations, in the consultations in Saqifa. We did not even get to participate in that election. You people gathered there in haste. And the Ansar, they nominated Sa'd ibn Ubadah, and you rejected their nomination. And then you nominated Umar, and he said, no, I don't want to stand for Khilafah. I will not stand when Abu Bakr is there. And then they nominated you, and it was a done deal. We, Banu Hashim, were not allowed to take part in that election, because we were too busy carrying out the funeral rites and the burial of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So technically speaking, the requirement of procedure and decorum,
is that we should be present.
Absolutely. فَإِن كُنْتَ بِالشُّورَى مَلَكْتَ أُمُورَهُمْ فَكَيْفَ بِهَذَا وَالْمُشِيرُونَ غُيَّبُوا. It is a famous line of poetry attributed to Imam Ali alayhi salam when he first found out about the election at Saqifa. He said that if you came to power with shura, that's fine, but فَكَيْفَ بِهَذَا, but what kind of shura was this? وَالْمُشِيرُونَ غُيَّبُوا, when the family of the Prophet were not even present at it. So this is the objection of Imam Ali alayhi salam, is that why were we not allowed to be part of the election?
This whole argument of Imam Ali is arguing on the basis of it is our right, based on the fact that we are we have Quraba, we have a near relationship to the Prophet, as well as not being present in the Shura. This is nothing to do with Nas.
No, absolutely not. He says that, look, because, see, his argument here, if you're going to go by the English, I was just focusing on the Arabic. The English translation is also fairly accurate. They're saying, but you did not. So we're not jealous of the good that Allah has bestowed upon you. Don't think that we are jealous that you become Khalifa. No, we're not jealous. The only issue is that we had some procedural objections, right? Some procedural issues with the way you came to power. It was not a very inclusive process. It was a hasty shura. Yeah. Now, the Khulafa, they justified it by saying, the Ansar were, going to seize power. And, if they had seized power, then it would create fitna, and the Quraysh would never be able to digest or accept, their leadership and this and that. So the Khulafa, they had their, their justification and their mawqif. Obviously, as far as we are concerned, we see eye to eye with what Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying. 100%. We agree his point is completely valid. And that's why
this point that Imam Ali is making, Sayyid, is as valid as it is, it's a complete different argument to the Shia argument.
True. It's because he's not saying that. Let's go back to the text.
The whole argument, we can analyze it up till, we can analyze it all day. But the point, the bigger point here is the argument's nothing to do with the Shia argument of Nas.
Exactly. He's saying that we had got a right to be right in it. By it, he's referring to the Shura, because that's what he was excluded from, right? Yeah. He says we had a right to be present at that Shura. And if we had been present at the Shura, of course, as the Banu Hashim, we wouldn't just let, people propose random candidates. We would also put forward our candidate. And obviously, the Banu Hashim's most supreme candidate was Imam Ali alayhi salam himself. So at least he would have the chance to, present his case, and the Banu Hashim would have the chance to present their perspective on why Imam Ali alayhi salam should be given the chance to lead the Ummah after the demise of the Prophet. But this was not allowed to happen. But Sayyid Raza, it is very important. You see, the Shia mindset gets stuck here that, so Imam Ali alayhi salam has said that the procedure was not okay, so therefore this Khilafah is invalid.
Yeah,
No, my no, 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 my dear. Don't.
A procedure not being done in the correct way doesn't invalidate the whole procedure. Where you say now the whole procedure is invalid. Otherwise, Imam Ali wouldn't give bay'ah.
Exactly. That's the whole point, is that you can't selectively look at the mawqif of Imam Ali, look at his objection and minus his action.
Minus. So what does he do then? Yeah, if Imam Ali stopped there and said, because you didn't follow the procedure, I am not going to give you bay'ah until the day I die. That's different. He didn't do that.
No, then that would be also our mawqif. We would be coming forward. No, we would be coming forward and we would be saying that the bay'ah and the khilafah of Abu Bakr is invalid and batil. And because our Imam, our Mawla and Master did not give them bay'ah, we therefore consider them illegitimate.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, this is the traditional mawqif.
Yes.
But actually, if you look at the sources are saying Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying, no, I will give bay'ah. But I want you people to know that the way this happened, we Ahlul-Bayt were not very pleased with it.
That's clear.
And this is why, as a sign of our displeasure and protest, we didn't give bay'ah for 6 months. But after 6 months, we gave bay'ah. Why? Imam Hussain alayhi salam will explain this even in more detail, inshallah, when we come to his letter. But that was because the Ahlul-Bayt alayhi salam saw the benefit of the Ummah in not getting divided over this issue until the Day of Judgment, and with one party saying that this rule is illegitimate, another party saying, no, it is legitimate. The Ahlul-Bayt said, look, this kind of fitna and this kind of division, we hate for it to happen in the Ummah because of us. We will register our protest and say that, you know what, this was not the best thing that you guys did. But at the same time, okay, what happened. We are prepared to reconcile now, to become one community, to accept your leadership and authority, so that this ummah can move ahead and can plow and basically advance towards the future as a united ummah, rather than as a divided ummah, with one part accepting the legitimacy, another part not accepting the legitimacy of the government. Ahlul-Bayt did not want this. So because of this, we got
that mawqif, because that over there, we are going to be discussing that in detail with the Imam Hussein's letter. We have done enough on this narration now. I want to now go back up to the part that concerns us. This was just extra tafsil we gave. I want to go back up to the part of Sayyidah Zahra dying angry.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, because we've just gone through a bit of tafsil here for the viewers, because we like to be thorough.
Right.
This narration is narrated by al-Mu'mineen Aisha. We know, as of the narration said, do we know that the Fadl, regardless of this narration, first of all, this is a narration of Bukhari, Sunni sources, etc. We know that the Fadl dispute happened outside of this narration, through our other sources, through our own narrations, through our own Turath, through other Qara'in. We know the dispute on Fadl happened. True?
Sure.
So we don't need Bukhari's narration to prove that. True?
Absolutely.
Okay. We also know that Sayyidah Zahra was not happy about that Fadl situation, as were the Ahlul-Bayt.
Naturally.
As Hazrat Bakr's decision went against them.
True.
Very good. That part where it says, and then she didn't speak to, or she was angry with Abu Bakr until she died. And she didn't speak until she died. And then she was, the burial, we have it as well in other sources that she was buried or potentially buried that night. But the way the narration's looking, it's looking like she was specifically buried that night so that Abu Bakr couldn't attend. That's what the narration is looking like. What I'm saying is this whole part about Sayyidah Zahra dying angry and stuff like this. My question, especially before I ask you the question, Sayyid, the question to the Shia public is that, why is it that we are taking this narration and treating this as some sort of definitive knowledge, or something that's, qat'i, something that's definitive, as 100% this is the way it happened, based on the testimony of al-Mu'mineen Aisha? When, from a Shia perspective, when did the testimony of al-Mu'mineen Bibi Aisha become hujjah for us?
That's a great point. And that's a really critical question that we need to pose to the traditional Shia who like to buy this narrative, is that, look, let's come back to the text again. If you're going to focus...
When did this al-Mu'mineen narrative, and we know that al-Mu'mineen kind of mawqif with the Ahlul-Bayt hasn't been the best at times. So how come on this issue, on something so important, which is actually a very private household matter, naturally Imam Ali would know, Imam Hassan would know, Imam Hussain would know, we have the narration of saying of al-Mu'mineen telling you the explicit last minute details that's happening in the house, which an insider would have to do, but yet we have al-Mu'mineen Aisha narrating it, but and the Shia are like treating it like it's Imam like the Shia are treating it like Imam Ali said this.
Exactly. That's a very powerful food for thought that you just delivered there, Sayyid Raza, is that when it comes to al-Mu'mineen Aisha's testimony, she says, so she became angry with Abu Bakr. Okay, so at the end of the Fadak dispute, this was a public dispute, by the way. It was witnessed by people. So al-Mu'mineen Aisha, it is acceptable. I can accept and understand that she saw Sayyidah Fatima, salamullahi alayha, leaving in anger.
Makes
okay,
sense.
So this part of the testimony we can accept. But then did not talk to him till she died.
Where is that? That's a very private internal kind of point to know.
Yeah, I mean, was al-Mu'mineen Aisha following her father everywhere he was going? She used to live in her chamber outside. From where does she know, and from where can be she so certain that about what Bibi Fatima's activities were in the last days of her life?
A clarification here for the Sunni audience watching this. They have a concept of Adat al-Sahaba, right? So for the Sunni concept, they would say, no, wherever Bibi Aisha got it from, she must have got it from somewhere, therefore it's reliable. Adat al-Sahaba concept. I say, as we'll go back, I say, for the Shia perspective, we don't have the concept of Adat al-Sahaba.
Yeah, exactly. And
what that means is when she's narrating something, she can easily get this from someone else. Because this is a technical discussion. You know this. The people that study know this, that with Sunnis, they have Adat al-Sahaba. So if a Sahabi narrates something, they will say, listen, they got it from, no matter if they saw it themselves or they got it from somewhere, it's the truth. What we say is not necessarily. It could be she got it from somewhere. It could be there's a problem with narrating. There could be 1,000 ifs and buts. The point is for the Shia, which is what we're trying to speak to right now, regardless of what the Sunnis believe about this narration, for the Shia perspective, how can this be hujjah and qat'i definitive evidence that this happened? Especially when this is inside matters, you have no way of ascertaining that's 100% mawqif. The thing that makes me more into shak, which is what we're going to discuss afterwards, is that the Ahlul, and this is something that the Shias have always had trouble with, me, myself including, and I've just had to in the end say, well, I follow AhlulBayt, what can I do? That I've always believed in this narration, by the way. Meaning, traditionally, Sayyid, I've always believed in this narration. It's only within the last couple of months, after having discussions with yourself and generally looking into things, I'm like, hold on. How come the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif doesn't seem to reflect Sayyidah Zahra's anger? How come their mawqif seems to be completely like a sort of tawalla type of moderate kind of mawqif with the Shaykhayn, but then they've got Sayyidah Zahra's mawqif here? So is it possible that this actual narrative, not to deny the whole thing, but rather the extreme kind of angle that's presented in this narration, is it possible that this never happened and that makes it more consistent with the AhlulBayt stance? Because otherwise it seems like a contradiction of what the AhlulBayt did with Sayyidah Zahra.
Right. So what you need to understand here is that Sayyidah Aisha, al-Mu'mineen Aisha, was living, she was not living inside the same room or chamber as Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha, right? She is living in her own chamber. She is not privy and she's not living 24/7 with Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha. So it is possible, this much is historically plausible, that she saw Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha leaving at the end of the Fadak dispute and discussion. She saw her leaving in anger. So that part I can understand. This is also confirmed by narrations of AhlulBayt, which say that we initially were upset and displeased due to the shortcomings of the Shaykhayn in regarding to our treatment and our rights, right? But then the crucial point is that the Imams of AhlulBayt, as I will demonstrate before you and as I will show you, they show you that the story doesn't end here at the Fadak dispute and Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha leaving angry. They say afterwards, we the AhlulBayt changed our stance because we observed how they ruled and how they dealt with the Ummah and how they followed the Quran and Sunnah for the most part, as best as they could. So because of that, we changed our anger into pleasure.
No, but you see, this is where it gets sting, because this is the mawqif and the narrations we need to look into now, because for the Shia, it looks like al-Mu'mineen Aisha is thiqatun thiqa right now. It's looking like she is the authority, and the Ahlul-Bayt smoke now, again, now suddenly al-Mu'mineen is like on the level where her word becomes hujjah, and the Ahlul-Bayt's amal and words are like, yeah, that's secondary, we'll just take this narration. So it looks like you've already got your mind made up. We need to have an anti-negative vibe rather than actually let's go towards the Ahlul-Bayt's view, because Bibi Aisha's narrative is her narrative. That's not a hujjah upon us. We need to look at what the Ahlul-Bayt did.
Right, because her perspective is her perspective. You see, al-Mu'mineen Aisha, she is not there at the deathbed of Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha. So what she says about what the state of mind of Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha was when she left this world and returned back to her creator, that's just conjecture, that's hearsay, that might be speculation on her part, that might be some kind of...
Unless the Shia want to believe in Adalat al-Sahaba now.
No, they don't believe in Adalat al-Sahaba, and it's an un-Quranic concept.
No, I know, Sid, I'm aware, but what I'm saying is that it seems like practically the Shia are believing Adalat al-Sahaba when it comes to this.
For this narration only, and not for the whole, just for this specific part, because they are...
Yeah, so this is again a sense of we need to be objective in our approach and look at all things. So I think without ado, unless there's something you want to add on to this narration, I think now we should go on to the famous letter that you've spoke about at many times in our discussions, the famous letter of Imam Hussain. And I think what's beautiful about that is that that's written by Imam Hussain in his later part of his life. So it's literally after all of the disputes we've talked about outside, the altercation outside the house of Sayyidah Zahra with the Bayar, potential altercation outside. We know about Sadiq, we know about Sayyidah Zahra being angry. We're not sure about potentially her dying angry, or the funeral where Abu Bakr is not invited, only for the sake of the fact of the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif seems to contradict that. So that's in doubt at the moment. The things that are affirmed, but the things that are in doubt, it's in doubt. So we want to go to Imam Hussein's letter and see what does he say.
Definitely, because my whole point, Sayyid Raza, and I want our viewership to understand this, is that the testimony of al-Mu'mineen Aisha with regard to what the final state of mind of Sayyidah Fatima was is not hujjah on us, because we know she was not there at the deathbed. The people who were around her at the time she was on her deathbed are Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Hussain alayhi salam.
If you had the narration from them, if
you can bring authentic narration from them, confirming and saying that yes, indeed, Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha died and left this world angry, then I can make this my mawqif.
Then that can be then
I can make this my stance.
Even then you can make it your stance, but even then I would say don't just stop there. The Ahlul-Bayt afterwards, their mawqif is different then.
Exactly, but I'm saying I can make this my stance, because if this was really the case, the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt would have transmitted this to us. They don't transmit, they transmit the opposite. They say that they acknowledge the first claim of al-Mu'mineen Aisha, which is that initially we were upset. They acknowledge this. They say there is no doubt about this. Initially we were upset, but then later on they say we became pleased. So, and they say we the Ahlul-Bayt. Now I ask you the question, is Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha part of the Ahlul-Bayt or not part of the Ahlul-Bayt? This is for you to decide. For us, she's part of the Ahlul-Bayt. So when the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt, they testify that we later on became pleased with the Shaykhayn, and we actually now do tarahum and we pray for them. So that tells me that this testimony of al-Mu'mineen Aisha may have some truth in it, in the sense of describing the early reaction of Bibi Fatema when she left after the Fadak dispute. But then what she says about the fact that she didn't speak to him until her death, maybe she didn't speak to him until her death, but did she die angry? On this, I'm going to trust the testimony of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, of his grandson Imam Zayd alayhi salam, of his nephew Al-Imam Abu Abdullah Ja'far ibn Muhammad Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. These are the testimonies that I'm going to be showing you, in light of which it will become clear to you that if you are going to try to derive from al-Mu'mineen Aisha's testimony, the claim that Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha died angry, then this is contradicted by the actual statements of Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha's own son.
Go to Imam Hussain's, I would say, bring out Imam Hussain's reference that you have. I want to see.
Exactly. That's what I want to do. That statement, Sayyid Raza, is found in numerous sources. As far as the 12-er Shia source is concerned, there is a 4-volume maqtal of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, which is entitled مع الركب الحسيني من المدينة إلى المدينة. It covers the entire mission and journey of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam from Medina to Medina. Yani the caravan, it went from Medina to Mecca, Mecca to towards Kufa, then to Karbala, then Sham, then all the way back to Medina. It covers everything. And this has been looked into, it has been edited and reviewed by top-level Shia scholars of Hadith and Rijal. They mention it, this letter of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, which I'm going to quote in volume 2 of this maqtal, page 30.
What maqtal is that, Sayyid?
This is Ma'arrak bil Hussaini, with the caravan of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam from Medina to Medina. They cover it all the way from the time he left Medina to the time the women folk returned to with Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam.
From Medina to Karbala.
From Medina to Medina.
Medina to Medina. Okay, I understand.
The entire full circle.
I understand. Okay, cool.
So it's an extremely detailed account of Imam Hussain alayhi salam.
Who's the musannif of that?
It's a whole team of scholars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
This particular volume was authored by a Sheikh Najmuddin al-Tabasi, who is a specialist, expert researcher in this field. But aside from this is a 12-er Shia source. We want to also make the larger mainstream Ummah also understand this point. So this is also mentioned by Al-Imam Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari in his Tariq.
Very nice.
From the riwayah of Abu Mikhnaf, who is an early Shia and who is authenticated by the highest level 12-er Rijali scholarship.
Yeah, the Zaydi and 12 scholars consider him reliable.
Zaydi, because he's very early Shia. And basically, Abu Mikhnaf is our source. He's from one of our primary sources for the whole Karbala narrative.
Yes.
Imam Hussain alayhi salam's shahada has been conveyed and transmitted to us by Abu Mikhnaf. He has a great contribution in that regard. So there is no scope for doubting this letter. And that's why I've discussed this letter of Imam Hussain alayhi salam with very traditional Qummi 12-er Shia scholars, and even they cannot deny or disprove its authenticity. In fact, in their books, they actually prove its authenticity. So what does Imam Hussain alayhi salam? Let me present to you the riwayah of Abu Mikhnaf. And what I love about this letter is that it presents us with real history. There is no whitewashing. There is no taqiyya. This narrative of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam doesn't exactly suit any sectarian Shi'i or sectarian Sunni narrative. It's really, bang in the center. It's in between.
Pure AhlulBayt mawqif, basically.
Pure AhlulBayt mawqif, absolutely. So if we can come to it, I've marked it here. وَقَدْ كَانَ حُسَيْنٌ عليه السلام كتب إلى أهل البصرة كتابا. This is the letter of Imam Hussain alayhi salam to Basra. It's narrated by Abu Mikhnaf, as you can see. I hope the text is clear. This letter is a very, very precious document. كتب بنسخة إلى رؤوس الأخماس بالبصرة وإلى الأشراف. This is a letter that Imam Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salatu wasalam sent to the heads of the 5 tribal divisions of Basra and to the noblemen of Basra. Okay, and then their names are listed, Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais and Mundhir ibn al-Jarud and Mas'ud ibn Amr, Qais ibn al-Haytham, Amr ibn Ubaidillah bin Ma'mar. And so he sent a copy of this letter to all these important, notable, noblemen of Basra. Look at what he says. Amma ba'd. He's giving you real Islamic history now. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى مُحَمَّدًا صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ عَلَى خَلْقِهِ. He says, Amma ba'd, indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam over his creation. وَأَكْرَمَهُ بِنُبُوَّتِهِ. and he honored him with prophethood, with his prophethood. وَاخْتَارَهُ لِرِسَالَتِهِ, and he chose him for his messengership. ثُمَّ قَبَضَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ, and then Allah called him back to himself. وَقَدْ نَصَحَ لِعِبَادِهِ, in a state whereby the Holy Prophet had already presented the best, most sincere advice and guidance to the slaves of Allah. وَبَلَّغَ مَا أُرْسِلَ بِهِ صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, and he had already conveyed and delivered to the Ummah what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had tasked him with delivering. Now look at what he says after the Prophet. This is now post-prophetic history beginning in the words of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. He says, وَكُنَّا أَهْلَهُ وَأَوْلِيَاءَهُ وَأَوْصِيَاءَهُ وَوَرَثَتَهُ وَأَحَقَّ النَّاسِ بِمَقَامِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. He says, and we, at the time the Holy Prophet left this world, and after he left this world, we, the Ahlul-Bayt, Imam Hussain says, we, the Ahlul-Bayt, were his family. We were his closest associates and awliya. We were his awsiya, meaning we were the executors of his will. We were the ones that Rasulullah said, you are going to execute my affairs in the sense of, burying me and taking care of my affairs. You will do that. وَوَرَثَتَهُ, and we were the inheritors. We were the lawful, legal heirs of the Prophet. Yani any mirath, any property he leaves behind, we were the ones entitled to it. وَأَحَقَّ النَّاسِ بِمَقَامِهِ فِي النَّاسِ, and we were the most worthy. Okay.
Most worthy.
Ahaq means most worthy. Okay, most rightful. We were the most rightful candidates from among the people to take his position among the people.
Very nice.
Now I know this you can see these statements might be hard for Ahlul Sunnah to digest because they go against their narrative, right? Their narrative is tafdeel of the Shaykhayn, believing that they were the most qualified. And
this narrative is going to be hard for Ahlul Sunnah as well as the Imamiyah.
As well as the Imamiyah, because Imam Hussain,
because the Imam is going to say, where's the Nas? Where's Nas gone?
No, there is no Nas. You see, he's saying that Imam Hussain alayhi salam, like Imam Ali alayhi salam in that narration of Bukhari, he's saying, look, we were qualified to succeed the Prophet on grounds of our merit and our closeness to him, not on grounds of the fact that Allah chose us or the Prophet designated us. None of that. We're not claiming that. We are arguing from merits. We were very close to the Prophet, because ultimately when Muhajirin, they argued against the Ansar at Saqifa, how did they win against the Ansar? They said, we are closer to the Prophet than you.
Yeah.
So that's that. So the Ahlul-Bayt said, فَغَيْرُكَ بِالنَّبِيِّ أَوْلَى وَأَقْرَبُ. They said, if Muhajirin are closer than the Ansar to the Prophet and therefore more entitled of being the successors and the leaders in place of the Prophet, then we, the Ahlul-Bayt, are even closer to the Prophet than the Muhajirin.
Yeah.
So whatever argument you're going to cancel the Ansar's candidature with, we can use it to cancel your candidature.
They argued by the tree and forgot the fruits, right? Something
exactly.
like that.
احتجوا بالشجرة وأضاعوا الثمرة. You argued from the tree but wasted the fruit.
That's Imam Ali.
أحسنتم. This is Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tabari. He's an Imam of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He has no problem narrating this. Yes. Because he knows that this is the historical stance of the Ahlul-Bayt. As a Sunni, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You got a problem with the Ahlul-Bayt, that's your problem. But the Ahlul-Bayt, they believed that they were more qualified to lead this Ummah, and this was their stance. You can see Imam Hussain is not doing taqiyya in this letter. Don't bring me later on this argument that the Qummis try to bring, taqiyya. Baba, if he's taqiyya, how come he's so clear about his the entitlement of the Ahlul-Bayt? If he was taqiyya, doing taqiyya, he would say, no, we Ahlul-Bayt were not supposed to lead the Ummah and Allah chose for us to be outside leader. Do you see him making any such taqiyya?
Very direct.
It's very direct. And this is also our stance. This is what we also believe, is that they were the most qualified. No doubt about it. But then what happened? He says, وَأَحَقَّ النَّاسِ بِمَقَامِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. We were the most worthy of standing in the place of Rasulullah among the people. And what Rasulullah, the position that he occupied of leadership and rulership, we were the most entitled to it due to our closeness to Rasulullah and due to our merits. Okay. Notice, he's not mentioning any divine appointment or prophetic designation.
It's all an argument of tafdeel, basically.
Yeah, it's an argument from Fadail. He's not quoting Hadith al-Manzila, wala Hadith al-Ghadir, wala Hadith al-Taqalain, and all those are, because Aslan Ahlul-Bayt never saw these Hadith as divine appointments. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now what happened? Okay, so Imam Hussain, if you were the most qualified, then what happened? Why were you not elected? He says, فَاسْتَأْثَرَ عَلَيْنَا قَوْمُنَا بِذَلِكَ. He says, our people, they sidelined us. They put us on the side. Instead of putting us forward, they sidelined us. So then obviously
very direct.
Exactly. So when they were sidelined and when they were pushed aside, if you go back to the narration of Imam Bukhari, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, this is why we were upset. For the first 6 months, we were upset because we were pushed aside. We were not allowed to participate in the shura. We were not allowed to advance our own candidate. We were not allowed to campaign and make speeches in favor of our candidate. None of that. We were deprived of all of that.
Yes.
But then after that, my friends, the Shia, they like to get stuck on this part, that Ahlul-Bayt were displeased. Now look at this. This is the same Imam Hussain, unfiltered, non-taqiyya narrative he's giving you here.
We were sidelined.
Yeah, we were sidelined. But then later on, he says, faradina. But then after being sidelined, when we looked into the matter and we realized that, it's the future of the Ummah at stake. We don't want the Ummah to be divided. So what did we do? Faradina. We became satisfied. We accepted the choice of the people. Okay. Why? Because وَكَرِهْنَا الْفُرْقَةِ. Because we absolutely hate division and disunity in the Ummah. The same division and disunity in the Ummah that is being caused today by Shias not accepting the stance of our Imams. The conciliatory stance of our Imams.
Only taking one issue in the beginning and not dealing with how the Ahlul-Bayt dealt with it afterwards.
Exactly. You are supposed to go with their full mawqif. Not that, they were displeased initially. Yes, of course they were displeased. But then later on, he's saying faradina. But later on, we accepted the choice of the Ummah. Why? Because وَكَرِهْنَا الْفُرْقَةِ. Because we absolutely detest and abhor and hate for there to be division and disunity in this Ummah that our grandfather, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, worked so hard to carve out and build. Okay? وَأَحْبَبْنَا الْعَافِيَةِ. And he says, we actually loved the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieved us of this duty, this, very burdensome duty of, running the affairs of the Ummah. We saw it as afiyah, that Allah relieved us because the Ummah didn't choose us. So now that heavy responsibility does not come on our shoulders. So in a way, we are relieved from a very big imtihan. Because when you occupy positions of leadership, that's a very big imtihan. And so we felt relieved of that. But then he goes on to repeat and assert and reiterate. He says, وَنَحْنُ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّ أَحَقُّ بِذَلِكَ الْحَقِّ الْمُسْتَحَقِّ عَلَيْنَا مِمَّنْ تَوَلَّى. But he says, make no mistake about it. Even as we accepted the decision of the Ummah, we gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr and Umar and all of that, we still kept on maintaining and sticking to our knowledge that we are the most qualified and we are the most worthy candidates of this right to lead the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ after him, compared to those who actually took up this role in our place. Okay, so he's saying we maintain that we were more worthy and we were more rightful for that position because of our merits.
Because it's a political office, isn't it? Imam Hussain's talking from a political angle, that from a political office, Khilafah is a political angle, we maintain that we have more right. The thing is, there's no concept. The thing that's being discussed here is not this divine thing that they're letting go. That's why today in the Ummah, Sayyid, we can have a mawqif on this, and we have our mawqif, but it's not something that you need to bring up to cause discord. It's just a mawqif.
Yeah, it's just a
mawqif. Today's time, it's like, Ahlul-Bayt should have ruled first. They didn't, unfortunately. It would have been better if they did.
Yeah, and move on.
That's my point. That's my point.
Yeah, don't declare war on the Ummah, just because they didn't choose the candidate that we believed would have been the best candidate. I mean, after any election, the party that is not chosen, they are disappointed. But it doesn't mean that then that party should then break away and build a new country and say,
you need to work. That's what Ahlul-Bayt are against.
Unfortunately, this is what the sectarian Shia did, is that they use this excuse to form a whole sect on this issue. This is why they came to be known as Imamiyya, which is their whole dispute is with the Ummah is on Imama.
Yeah, because
and they became
so extreme on it that they started adding that it's been chosen by Allah and His Rasul, and it changed.
And then they made it part of
Usuluddin, and they exactly.
And then they built a whole sectarian identity around it. and they separated from the Ummah. Whereas Imam Ali alayhi salam's strict command was ilzamu sawad al-a'zam, remain one with the Ummah. His command to the Shia and to all his followers was always be one community with the Ummah. Don't allow shaitan to give you any excuse to split away and form your own separate sectarian community. So if we can come back to the text.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that text. Yeah, let's go over it.
Yeah, Imam Hussain alayhi salam is basically giving us the unfiltered truth, mashallah.
Yeah.
He's saying, وَنَحْنُ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّ أَحَقُّ بِذَلِكَ الْحَقِّ الْمُسْتَحَقِّ عَلَيْنَا مِمَّنْ تَوَلَّى. So he says, look, we continue to maintain that we are more qualified and we are more worthy, okay? Not because of divine appointment or prophetic designation, but because of our merits and closeness to Rasulullah. Okay, the same arguments that Muhajirin used, Ahlul-Bayt are saying those arguments work better for us than they work for Abu Bakr and Umar. In any case, he says, look, what happened. We were more qualified, but we were not given the opportunity. But it doesn't matter. Look at what he says after this now. Please pay attention. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنُوا وَأَصْلَحُوا. He says the good thing is that these khulafa who came to power, particularly Abu Bakr and Umar he's talking about, when they came to power, قَدْ أَحْسَنُوا. We observed how they ruled, and we got to see that قَدْ أَحْسَنُوا. They actually did quite good.
Ruled well. Yeah, ahsan.
وَأَصْلَحُوا. And they did islah. They actually, now you might say, well, and then look at that. وَتَحَرَّوُا الْحَقِّ. The Imam says, and they tried their best to pursue the truth as much as they could. Now, were they perfect? Were they infallible? Did they never make any mistakes? Did they never go against Quran and Sunnah? That the Ahlul-Bayt are not claiming that. They're just saying, look, overall, okay, if you're going to be a perfectionist, okay, if you're going to be an absolute perfectionist, then Baba, even in the Quran, there are places where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet that why did you do this and why did you do that?
Yeah, because we have a wrong concept of isma, so we apply this standard to everyone. We don't realize with the standard we have, even prophets will fail.
Exactly. No one can be an absolute 100%. And especially we know about Abu Bakr and Umar in the sense of their knowledge of Sunnah and all of that was nowhere near that of the Ahlul-Bayt. So you can't expect them to rule the Ummah as ideally as the Ahlul-Bayt would have ruled it. But still, the Ahlul-Bayt are saying, look, don't be such an idealist. Don't be such a perfectionist.
They tried their best and they ruled well. So that's it.
Exactly. As far as we are concerned, overall, we are not going into nitty-gritties and details and fadak and this and that.
I can see your mindset. Imagine a Shia will straight away say, oh, well, how is fadak ruling well? It's like, yeah, well, that's why it's general. It's not, you don't pick up the khas issues.
Exactly. The Imams of Ahlul-Bayt are giving a general overall. Okay. It's like when you are marking a student's paper, okay, let's say someone gets 95 out of 100 or 75 out of 100. As a teacher, you won't focus so much and berate the student on the 25 marks that he missed. Rather, you will celebrate the 75 marks that he...
I think a good angle, well, maybe I'll talk about it, but I think the angle is with the Ummah overall is different, and with their dealings with Ahlul-Bayt, the Ahlul-Bayt kind of let those things go. There's a big difference.
Exactly. You see, Imam Hussain, Ahsantum. Thank you very much for bringing up this very important clarification, is that the Ahlul-Bayt, when they're saying Ahsanu wa Aslahu, that the Khulafa, they ruled very nicely, and they did Islah, and they brought about, rectitude, وَتَحَرَّوُا الْحَقِّ, and they pursued. They are not looking at all those nitty-gritty matters where they might have fallen short. They are looking at it from an optimistic perspective. You can look at the glass half full or glass half empty. Imam Hussain alayhi salam is saying that, look, because we want unity in the Ummah, because we don't want there to be sectarian division, let's look at the glass half full. And the glass half full narrative is that overall, they did a lot of good things for Islam. Ahsanu wa aslahu.
And I think sometimes we as Shia don't get told the good things they have done, especially in their rule of Khilafah. We just focus on fadak or this and that, etc.
You see, this whole narrative of Imam Hussain is never presented to our awam. I think most of our lay people, for the very first time in their entire lives, they'll be listening to this. This narrative. Yeah, this is the authentic letter of Imam Hussain alayhi salam to the people of Basra that no one wants to read and present. We have so many Muharram commemorations. We talk about this, we talk about that. We don't talk about this letter of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, which is part of the Muharram, Muharram saga. So Imam Ahsanu, they did good, they did Islah, they ruled, they spread reform in the land. وَتَحَرَّوُا الْحَقِّ. they actually pursued the truth to the best of their ability. Taharra means to pursue something. He's not saying they had ownership and monopoly over the truth. They pursued it. In some cases, they may have achieved it. In other cases, they may have fallen short. But overall, look at what the Imam says after this. He says, فَرَحِمَهُمُ Allahu Akbar. This is Imam Hussain alayhi salam saying, فَرَحِمَهُمُ اللَّهُ. Overall, after looking at the good and the bad and the ugly and all of that, overall, the Imam says he does tarahum over them. He says, فَرَحِمَهُمُ May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy over them. Do you imagine, Sayyid Raza, that Imam al-Hussein would say, may Allah have mercy over them, if he was at the deathbed and he saw that his mother died angry? Do you think Imam Hussain alayhi salam would have the courage and the audacity to say, yeah, well, my mother died angry, that's her problem, I'm going to do tarahum on them?
No,
Does this narrative not make you doubt the validity of the testimony of al-Mu'mineen Aisha?
I'm going to hold judgment until you finish this letter.
Okay. فَرَحِمَهُمُ So Imam Hussain alayhi salam says, so may Allah shower his mercy on them. May Allah have mercy on them. وَغَفَرَ لَنَا May Allah forgive us. He's asking forgiveness for himself and the Ahlul-Bayt. وَلَهُمْ And also for the Shaykhayn, for the Khulafa. May Allah have mercy on them. May Allah forgive us. And may Allah forgive them as well. Okay. And then after that, Imam Hussain comes to the topic. He says, وَقَدْ بَعَثْتُ رَسُولِي إِلَيْكُمْ بِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ He's now addressing the people of Basra. He says, look, I'm sending you my messenger. I have sent you my messenger with this letter. وَأَنَا أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ وَسُنَّةِ نَبِيِّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ I am inviting you now, O people of Basra, to come and join me and support me in my mission to establish the book of Allah and enforce the sunnah of his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. فَإِنَّ السُنَّةَ قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ وَإِنَّ الْبِدْعَةَ قَدْ أُحِيَّتْ Because right now the situation in the Ummah is that the sunnah has been destroyed. It has been killed by the rule of this Taghiyah, this tyrant Muawiyah. He has literally buried and killed the sunnah. And after him, Yazid wants to further bury it. I'm not going to let that happen. I want to invite people towards the book of Allah and the sunnah of the messenger, because the sunnah has been killed. وَإِنَّ الْبِدْعَةَ قَدْ أُحْيِيَتْ And the bid'ah, the innovations have been revived. They have been given a new lease of life by these corrupt rulers of the Banu Umayyah. There is no taqiyya here, as you can see. He's openly calling out the Banu Umayyah. وَإِن تَسْمَعُوا قَوْلِي He addressing the people of Basra, he says, and if you listen to me, وَتُطِيعُوا أَمْرِي And if you obey my command and my invitation and my order, أَهْدِكُمْ سَبِيلَ الرَّشَادِ I guarantee you and I assure you, I will lead you to the correct path. I will lead you to the path of guidance. وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ The people of Basra, whether they responded to this call of Imam Hussain or not, we call Allah to witness that we respond to his call and we align our mawqif with the mawqif of Imam Hussain alayhi salam.
Now, Sayyid, now it makes sense that based, obviously, look, the viewers and the Shia, look, they don't know this research, or they haven't been shown this research. They haven't been shown this side of the Ahlul-Bayt, or they've just been shown one side every year, like repeat and memorizing certain words and saying Fadaq this, or threat of the house this, or burning of the house this. While, we're not, alhamdulillah, we're not children here. We know those sources and we know theirs. The difference between us and them and the traditionalist is that we know that side, but we also know this side. So when we make a mawqif, we look at everything, then give you a conclusion. We don't just look at one thing and say, oh yeah, well, let's just stick to this. And that's why Imam Hussein's letter is a good kind of understanding of the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif. Was initially we were upset. Afterwards, we saw how they ruled, and we, Allah forgive them and forgive us and tarahum on them. And this what now makes sense, Sayyid, of why at times or generally we say, we give them honorifics like Hazrat Abu Bakr and Umar, and we say radiyallahu anhu after the name, or tarahum, rahmatullah alayhi after them, because of the fact of this was the way of Imam Hussain and Ahlul-Bayt.
Exactly. So when we do that, please, we want to tell those people who are our detractors.
This is not some thing that we're doing because we just feel like doing it and, let's make unity. No, this is because we believe this was the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif.
Yes, and I want to address my very dear, beloved 12-word traditional audience and community that look what Imam Hussain alayhi salam has invited us and the people of Basra towards in this letter and the narrative that he has given. In this is wallah the khair of this ummah.
Khair of the ummah.
The khair of this ummah. Imam Hussain alayhi salam is not giving your narrative which you people are reciting from the mimbar or sharing with your public or circulating on WhatsApp and all of that. You know, we should do tabarri and la'na and dushmanan janab Zahra and all of that. Imam Hussain alayhi salam was hakim. He was full of wisdom. He knew that the khair of this ummah and the unity of this ummah cannot be united on hatred for the Shaykhayn and the icons of this ummah. The only way you can unite this ummah is by telling them the truth of what happened. That yes, shortcomings, there were shortcomings. Even in that riwayah of Bukhari, you will notice Abu Bakr, he cried. When Imam Ali alayhi salam confronts him and says that why were we not included, he cries. And by crying, this is an admission that yes, this was not the best thing.
100%.
But then after that, Imam Ali alayhi salam and the Ahlul-Bayt after him, in the interest of this ummah that the Holy Prophet gave his sweat and blood for, they said that, look, we are going to bury the hatchet. We are going to resolve this dispute. We are going to bury it.
I think
the problem is
the Ahlul-Bayt have this mizaj, said, of burying the hatchet when it comes to issues that the Shaykhayn might have had shortcomings with the Ahlul-Bayt. The Ahlul-Bayt was like, this is to do with us, we'll let it go. Because we can see with the Ummah, Shaykhayn are doing khair. Even if the shortcomings are with us.
Exactly.
If the shortcomings come with the Ummah, that's when it's different.
Yes, if you do zulm on the Ummah, then we will not forgive you.
Then we won't. Then
they were very much against Uthman because
exactly. You'll notice the Ahlul-Bayt's policies with Uthman are nothing like with Shaykhayn.
Yeah, Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha is very clear. He says, I don't make any secret of the fact that kuntu anqimu minhu ashya. With Uthman, I had grievances. I had issues with him.
Direct.
But with the Shaykhayn, yes, the personal disputes were there, but the Ahlul-Bayt, they said, look, these disputes are not worth tearing the fabric of this ummah over.
Yes, I agree.
This ummah, we need to find a way to keep it united and not destroy its unity by bringing up these things and blowing them out of proportion and then making them into something that we then separate away from the ummah and form our own separate sectarian identity and basically declare war on the mainstream ummah until the day of judgment. And basically only in unity conferences you come and give rosy speeches, yeah, unity, and then you go back to your centers and then you say bulb and lanat and all of that. And
this is not the way. And I think, so based on this, Sayyid, as a thing, before we go on to Imam Hussein's grandson, who also is very, his famous speech is very kind of, we've quoted it before and we will keep quoting it because it's so powerful. Before we get to that, is basically to show that the Sayyid Zahra Mawqif that's presented to us about dying angry and not coming to the funeral, stuff like that, in light of Imam Hussein's letter, this is something that is not, we cannot say this is definitive. Listen, the Sayyida Zahra thing could have potentially still happened, but I haven't seen anything apart from a narration of al-Mu'mineen Aisha. I haven't seen nothing from the Ahlul-Bayt themselves discussing this in the house. So there's no way I can say this happened when we have nothing definitive from the people in the house.
Sayyidi, the people in the house are contradicting. They are exactly. How can I trust al-Mu'mineen, a distant person's testimony that Sayyidah Fatima died angry, when Imam Hussain, her beloved son, and you have no idea, not you, I'm speaking of those who don't have knowledge, they have no idea how absolutely Imam Hussain alayhi salam used to love Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha. He was so proud of his connection to Sayyidah Fatima. Even in Karbala, when he's giving the speech and saying, why I cannot give bay'ah, he says, وَحُجُورٌ طَابَتْ وَطَهُرَتْ. It's because of the pure lap that I was raised in. I cannot accept humiliation because I was raised in a very honorable and pure lap. You can see his fakhr and his pride in Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha. So if Imam al-Hussain, and really my Imam is Imam Hussain alayhi salam, if he's saying that, look, and he, if he was doing taqiyya here, I wouldn't take this letter seriously. If from the beginning of the letter, he was saying, what, Khilafah was...
The taqiyya narrative is a ghulat narrative. Anyone that says that Imam is doing taqiyya, that's doesn't even matter. If someone says taqiyya, that they can live with that narrative.
Yeah, but I keep coming back to it because this is what the traditional 12er mindset always goes
to. The 12er mindset will say it, but they tell them to come out publicly and say it. Come out publicly and say this is taqiyya. Don't hide in your room and say, yeah, taqiyya. No, come out and say it. Yeah, come out and respond and say this is taqiyya.
Yeah, but then how can you claim the letter of Imam Hussain is taqiyya when he's actually...
They won't publicly come out and say it. That's my point. They will never come out publicly and say it. They'll think it, but they won't say it. Because even they know themselves, to say taqiyya destroys Imam Hussein's mission. He's going against Yazid the tyrant, but he can't call out Abu Bakr Umar.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
I tell you, he's going against Yazid the tyrant.
When you are going to get killed eventually, you might as well tell the truth.
And that's the beauty of Imam Hussain and Imam Zayd, who we're going to go to next. That they were both at moments in their lives where death was in front of them.
Exactly.
And that's when they addressed this issue.
Subhanallah. So these are basically dying declarations, which even in a worldly court of law...
This is the best time to say openly, whatever, I'm going to die anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be killed. And the traditional narrative is that Imam Hussain alayhi salam knew he was going to be killed.
That's even
right.
more now.
Yeah. So it had been prophesied by the Prophet. So he's like, well, what do I have to lose now? Who's going to come after me if he had real hatred for Shaykhayn in his heart? This was the time to say that, yeah, I'm going to let everything out. But you see, Imam Hussain alayhi salam is a visionary Imam. He has this hikmah. I don't know why people fail to see the wisdom in this letter. It's such a beautiful letter. If you want to have a mawqif, if you want to have a stance that is loyal to the Ahlul-Bayt and that is loyal to true history, doesn't whitewash or suppress or cover up. Imam Hussain is very clear about how they were marginalized, how they were sidelined, how their opinion was that they should succeed the Prophet. He's not hiding anything.
Because I feel like the Sunni narrative is basically, apart from they'll accept, based on this Bukhari narration, there was issues in the beginning, but after that, it's kind of lovey-dovey and they completely are best friends. And everything's made up from the Shia. And then the Shia side is basically Shaykhayn are, like astaghfirullah, the worst of creation. I feel like this letter of Imam Hussain gives balance and brings balance to the force, which is basically that, listen, like both sides here, no, the actual early stance, and inshallah was actually in between both sides, and it kind of resembles that Zaydi mawqif.
And wallahi, Sayyid Raza, this is what changed me. I also used to have much more traditional views, as everyone knows. But after studying, and it's not just this letter, this stance of Ahlul-Bayt is repeatedly transmitted by the Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam, as I will show you in a moment. This is something that we have attained certainty that, yes, this was the actual historical stance of the Ahlul-Bayt. It is taqiyya free. There is no element of them hiding, whitewashing, covering up, suppressing. They're being very clear and crystal clear about their mawqif. And so because I consider Imam Hussain alayhi salam to be my Imam and someone that I want to align myself with.
The last Imam when he's older. So he's the last Imam. His kalam now, he's seen everything.
Exactly. He has seen everything. He was there at the deathbed of Sayyidah Fatima.
He was there when Imam Ali ruled. He was there when Imam Hassan ruled. He saw everything. And now he's giving you the verdict doctrine. So he's right. You're giving the last mawqif of the Ahlul-Bayt.
Exactly.
And that is the mawqif, Sayyid, I want you to go forward now with Imam Zayd.
Yeah. So I want to take Imam Hussein's testimony over Sayyidah Aisha's testimony. Sayyidah Aisha's testimony gives us half the picture, which is the initial anger.
Yes.
But later on, the part about Faradina, we later became pleased because we saw that these people are not destroying Islam. They're actually serving Islam. They're doing good stuff for Islam. Okay. And they're doing the best that they can within their circumstances. So basically the Imams
Allah forgive them, Allah forgive them, Allah forgive us, and tarahum.
Basically. Yeah, so now
you know where it's coming from when we say it.
Don't tell me now. I'm telling those detractors, those mischievous people who say, oh, they're showing their love for the enemies of Janab Zahra. Baba, I'm doing taqleed of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. When I say Abu Bakr rahimahullah or Umar rahimahullah, okay, don't accuse me of anything other than taqleed
anything about following Imam Hussain. Simple.
Yeah, I'm following Imam Hussain.
Now you can say no, we agree, disagree. That's fine, but know that our mawqif is based on a reading of what the Ahlul-Bayt was saying.
And this reading is there.
Go for it. But we are following Ahlul-Bayt.
Yeah, this reading is there in Sunni sources. It is there in authentic Shia sources.
And it's the sources that has the khair for the Ummah.
There is the khair for the Ummah. Wallahi, the khair for the Ummah is in this, because this destroys sectarianism on both sides.
I agree.
Sunnis need to learn to understand that the Ahlul-Bayt Ahlul-Bayt, yeah, they have their own mawqif, and the Ahlul-Bayt have a right to have their own opinion about who should succeed the Prophet. They're not supposed to accept the Sunni narrative that, oh, Abu Bakr was afdal and therefore he was a companion of the Prophet, and this is Ahlul-Bayt. They are too close to the Holy Prophet for us not to even allow them to have their own stance and to consider themselves more qualified. And the Shia need to learn that, okay, stuff happened, there were disputes, but nothing so serious that you need to completely break away from the Ummah, form a sect, and then turn that sect into a cult which engages in perpetual cursing and bad-mouthing of icons whom your Ahlul-Bayt later reconciled with, and then did tarahum.
In fact, this before we go to just Imam Zayd, Imam Ali's kalam on this, which was the famous narration, it's transmitted in the sources, which is that Imam Ali alayhi salam says that after the Prophet, I had the most right to Khilafah. I had the most right to Khilafah. But then Abu Bakr became the Khalif, and I gave bay'ah to him, and I made peace with him. Then Umar came, and I gave bay'ah to him, and I made peace with him. Then Uthman came, then I gave bay'ah to him and made peace with him. And now people are conflicted between me and Muawiyah. That's the narration.
Yeah.
So you can see that again, it's all linking. This in the Mawqif of Ahlul-Bayt, it's linking with what Imam Hussain said.
So the question the Shia needs to ask is, are you really silmun liman salamahum wa harbun liman harabahum? Or is this just some lip service, some fancy slogans and chants that you have on your mouth?
100%.
So if
now Sayyid, grandson of Imam
Hussain.
Now we go grandson of Imam Hussain. My favorite personality, Imam Zayd.
Our favorite personality after Imam Hussain alayhi salam and Imam Ali ibn al-Hussain and al-Bakr alayhi salatu wasalam. Indeed. So this is Kitab al-Futuh by Ibn A'tham al-Kufi. It has been edited by Ali Shiri, published by Darul Adwa, volumes 7 and 8. If we can go to
Imam Zayd is the one who basically, he is just, again, he is the son of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. So Imam Hussain had a son called Imam Zayn al-Abidin, who's the fourth Imam. After Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he had more sons, but two prominent sons was Muhammad, and that's who Imam Muhammad Bakr, and his brother was Imam Zayd, and that was from another wife. And Imam Zayd al-Shahid, he is the one who basically carried on the revolutionary movement of Imam Hussain, because if you look at the Alids, he's the first one to stand up and follow the Sunnah of Imam Hussain.
Indeed. And here we have a narration.
He starts the battle. So he wanted to uprise and do jihad against the Umayyad oppressors. And in Kufa, when he gets there, he's from Medina. When he gets to Kufa, remember, he's a Madani. The Ahlul-Bayt are Madani. They live in Medina. They come to Kufa. By Imam Zayd's time, Kufa's changed. Kufa is not the same Kufa of Imam Ali now. It's not the same Kufa even of Imam Hussain. It's a different Kufa. So when Imam Zayd gets there, Imam Zayd's thinking, okay, let's do jihad, let's stand up. The Shia at that time give him bay'ah. They want to back him. I'm not sure if it's mentioned here, but in some sources it's mentioned that they start to understand that, okay, hold on, I think that the government has kind of understood that we are doing an uprising, and they get scared and they start realizing, okay, we can't really stand because the government already knows our plan. So they make a plan themselves, and they say, what we'll do is we'll ask Imam Zayd his mawqif on Shaykhayn. Now it's interesting to say that they asked that, because they know that this is the one question that Imam Zayd's obviously blank. Imam Zayd's like, well, the answer's going to come here now. I'll let you quote it. But that's kind of the backstory of, they asked this question because they want him to respond in the natural way they knew he would respond, and they use that as an excuse to leave him.
Exactly. What you mentioned is actually covered on this page. Yusuf bin Umar was the ruler of Kufa at that time. Yeah. He receives intelligence that Imam Zayd is going to stage an uprising. And so he orders his officers to go and start searching for Imam Zayd and any of his supporters. And so now Imam Zayd also goes into hiding, obviously to protect his life. And his Shia also, they scatter and disperse and they go into hiding, but then they also come and meet Imam Zayd in that state. And now I think they're trying to find excuses. They have given him bay'ah, but now they're trying, because they're scared for their lives, they want to find a way to come out of his bay'ah and not have to support him until death.
Yes.
So they come to him. وَأَقْبَلَ إِلَيْهِ نَفَرٌ مِّنْ أَصْحَابِهِ الَّذِينَ كَانُوا قَدْ بَايَعُوهُ. A group of his companions who had given him bay'ah, they came up to him and they said, Inna qad bay'anak. They said, look, we've given you the bay'ah, wa inna nahnu kharijuna ma'ak, and we're going to do khuruj with you. We're going to rise up with you.
Yes.
Walakin, but before we do that, just one small matter that, we want to sort out.
Clearly an important matter, very important matter that we need to sort out before jihad. That we need to know this before jihad. Yeah, go on.
We need to know the correct history before we die.
We need to know correct motive on Shaykhayn before jihad. Yeah, go on.
Yes. ولكن ما تقول في هذين الرجلين الظالمين أبي بكر وعمر.
मतलब सवाल में जवाब.
This sounds like Yasir al-Habib, wallahi.
Yeah, this सवाल में जवाब. मतलब we've given you the ishara in the सवाल.
You can see that mentality, that Yasiri mentality is there in Kufa as well in the time of Imam Zayd. The ghulu is beginning to harden now. So this is called begging the question, by the way. They're already answering the question in the question itself. They're not saying, what do you say about Abu Bakr and Umar? No, what do you say about these two oppressors, Abu Bakr and Umar?
Now, Imam Zayd's from Medina. Imam Zayd's just come fresh.
Fresh from Medina.
He's come fresh from Imam Hussein's mawqif. He's come from Imam Hussein's mawqif.
He's come from, imagine, he has read the letter of Imam Hussain. The letter has been, that's his grandfather. He's been spending his time sitting with Imam Ali ibn al-Hussain, Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, with Imam al-Bakr alayhi salam. By this time, even Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam had grown up. These are the people he has been socializing with. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the people of Kufa,
suddenly like these two dhalims, he's like,
this narration is very precious. It gives the 12-verse Shia a sense of how things will be like when you meet your Imams on the Day of Judgment. And you go to them and you say, yeah, Imam, because of you, we were against the tyrants of this Ummah and the oppressors, Abu Bakr and Umar. And look at how the Ahlul-Bayt react. As soon as they say to Imam Zayd, what do you say about these two tyrants and oppressors, Abu Bakr and Umar? فَقَالَ Zayd ibn Ali. So Zayd ibn Ali alayhi salam says, Mahlan. He says, hang on. Mahlan is used to...
Be easy.
Yeah, easy there. Because they've already labeled them Zalimin. Zalimain.
Yeah.
So he says, Mahlan, easy there. La taqulu fihima illa khayra. Don't speak about them anything except good. فَإِنِّي لَا أَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. Because I don't say anything about them except good.
Subhanallah.
Wala. Now listen to this. Imam Zayd, the 12-verse Shia might say, well, okay, that's Imam Zayd's opinion.
Yeah, the first thing that's not hujjah on us. Yeah, true.
That's not hujjah on me. Look at Imam Zayd's testimony. Remember, Imam Zayd is considered trustworthy by the 12-verse scholars of Rijal from Sayyid al-Khuwi. By the Ummah, but also the 12-verse scholars of Rijal.
12 exactly, 12. No, you've got to make that point. I agree. The 12
because the 12-verse audience does taqleed of these maraja, right?
I agree.
So now look at the testimony of this trustworthy Imam of the Ahlul-Bayt, Zayd alayhi salam. He's saying, وَلَا سَمِعْتُ مِنْ آبَائِي أَحَدًا يَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. I have not heard from any of my ancestors or my forefathers, anyone saying anything about them except khair.
Oh, so now he's brought up by forefathers. Now Imam Zainul Abidin's in there. Now Imam Hussein's in there. Now Imam Ali's. Well, of course, whoever he met and heard from, but whoever his forefathers are, it goes all the way now.
Yeah, but Imam Zainul Abidin, he met Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, and Imam Zainul Abidin would have informed him of Imam Hussein's mawqif, of Imam Ali's mawqif. The Ahlul-Bayt are not unaware of what their family position is on this.
Forefathers, anything but khair about them.
Exactly.
Oh, subhanAllah.
So this is the mawqif of the Ahlul-Bayt. قال فقال له القوم. So the people said to him, فَتَرَى أَنَّ بَنِي أُمَيَّةَ مَا ظَلَمُوكَ. Look at their mentality. So they say, okay, so then if you're gonna, if you are okay with the Shaykhayn, then what's your problem with Banu Umayyah? Then if Abu Bakr and Umar are not oppressors, then Banu Umayyah should also not be oppressors. Then what is this khuruj for? You see, they're trying to find ways not to do the khuruj. They want to live. They don't want to go and get martyred with Imam Zayd.
They don't want to do that. They don't want to be about the jihad life.
Exactly. So they're telling Imam Zayd that, look, if you're not going to call out Shaykhayn, if you're not going to speak out against them, then what case do you have against Banu Umayyah? Because it seems that you are not against Zalimin at all. Look at Imam Zayd bin Ali alayhi salam's response. He says, لَيْسَ الْقِيَاسُ فِي ذَلِكَ بِسَوَاء. He says, Tumhara qiyas farig hai. Your qiyas is bogus.
Yeah.
your analogy is completely false. Inna bani Umayyata qatalu jaddi al-Hussain ibn Ali radiyallahu anhu wa hamalu ra'sahu ila Sham. The Banu Umayyah cannot be compared to the Shaykhayn. Ya akhi, Banu Umayyah, they have our blood on their hands. They killed my grandfather, Al-Hussain ibn Ali, and they carried his head all the way to Sham. Now imagine if the Shaykhayn had actually murdered and killed Sayyidah Zahra or her unborn baby, then the Imam Zayd's argument would become invalid. Because
this is the best point now. The fact that he said this and he didn't say that, the fact that he said this, if the Shaykhayn had killed Sayyidah Zahra, this would be the time, the jawab of the Kufan Iraqis to have said, what are you talking about? They killed your grandmother.
You see, it seems Kitab Sulaim has still not been written yet. Even
Kitab Sulaim still not there.
Kitab Sulaim narrative is not there, ya akhi. Because even the people of Kufa, these are ghulat, by the way. Ghulat of Kufa.
These are ghulat by our standards. They have ghulu in them.
Yeah, but they are so early ghulat that they don't even know. This narrative of the whole murder and the burning of the door has not reached them.
The early ghulat are still just saying, oh, Bakr, Umar, al-Zalim. They're not calling them qatil of Sayyidah Zahra, huh?
Yeah. No. Because the zalim is, they're referring to fadak and these things.
Fadak and khilafah and stuff like that. But look,
the murder narrative aslan did not exist even in ghulati circles.
That's a very good Karina said that you used there. Very good.
Yeah. So Imam Zayd says,
for the audience, take notes on that because that should open your mind.
Exactly. Banu Umayyah killed my grandfather Hussain ibn Ali. They carried his head to Sham. وَقَتَلُوا أَهْلَ الْمَدِينَةِ. Banu Umayyah did not stop at Imam Hussain. They killed the people of Medina. Waqi'atul Harra. He's referring to that. Yeah, Imam Zayd knows his history.
He knows his history. The fact, look, he's mentioning it. He's from Medina. Yes. That's his city.
That's his city, exactly.
His city.
So the Banu Umayyah killed the people of Medina, and they nahabuha, they plundered and looted it for 3 days continuously. ثم رموا بيت الله الحرام بالحجارة والعذرة والنار. They catapulted the house of Allah with stones and filthy materials and fire. Okay. وأبو بكر وعمر لم يفعلا من ذلك شيئا. Abu Bakr and Umar never did any such horrendous acts. Do you see?
Never done it.
And Imam Zayd could never have said the statement if Umar and Abu Bakr stood guilty of shedding the blood of Sayyidah Zahra or her unborn baby.
Game over.
قال فغضب القوم. So these people became angry. The ghulat of Kufa. ثم قالوا. Then they said, Inna Ja'far ibn Muhammad huwa ahaqqu bihadha al-amri minka. They said, you know what? Because your opinion is not the same as our opinion, we are going to now start arguing that Imam Ja'far bin Muhammad is more worthy of this affair than you. Because we don't like your opinion.
Here comes Imam. Here comes Imam.
Right. ثم تركوه. So they abandoned him. But bhai, haq se kahan bhagoge? You can't run away from the truth, yeah? Because later on, Imam Ja'far, they go to Imam Ja'far and look at what they have to hear from him. ثم تركوه, they left Imam Zayd. وصاروا إلى جعفر ibn Muhammad بالمدينة. So now these Kufans, they leave Imam Zayd in Kufa and they go to Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam in Medina. In another narration, you are given the details that Imam Zayd actually facilitated this trip because he said to them, what do you mean Imam Ja'far? Imam Ja'far has the same view as me. He's my nephew.
He's my uncle. He's my nephew. Yeah.
He's my nephew. We talk daily in Medina.
Yeah.
So these people, at the arrangement of Imam Zayd, they go to Medina. They enter the house of Imam Ja'far. وَسَلَّمُوا عَلَيْهِ. They do salam and then they say, يَبْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. O son of the Messenger of Allah, إِنَّا كُنَّا بَايَعْنَا عَمَّكَ زَيْدَ بْنَ عَلِيٍّ وَهَمَمْنَا بِالْخُرُوجِ مَعَهُ. We had given bay'ah to your uncle Zayd bin Ali, and we were planning to rise up with him. ثُمَّ إِنَّا سَأَلْنَاهُ عَنْ أَبِي بَكْرٍ وَعُمَرٍ. But then we asked him about Abu Bakr and Umar, فَذَكَرَ أَنَّهُ لَا يَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. So when we asked him about Abu Bakr and Umar, he responded by saying that I do not say anything about them except good. So now they are complaining about Imam Zayd to who? To Imam Ja'far.
Yes.
And they're hoping that Imam Ja'far will refute Imam Zayd and say, oh, that's so atrocious. How dare he say that?
This is good for the 12 audience, this narration. Yeah.
Yes. But then فَقَالَ جَعْفَرُ بْنُ مُحَمَّدٍ. So Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam responds by saying, وَأَنَا لَا أَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. तो क्या अजब की बात है? What surprise is that Imam Zayd said that وَأَنَا لَا أَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا. I also don't say anything about the Shaykhayn except good. मतलब कौन सी बड़ी बात है? What's the big deal?
The Kufi would have been like, okay, you're not our Imam, let's go. The Kufi would have been like, okay, Imam Sadiq, you're not our Imam, let's go finding someone else.
No, what's your problem with the stance of Imam Zayd? It's my stance. It's the stance of all our early Ahlul-Bayt. Imam Ali, Imam Hussain, Imam Hassan, all of them are.
What did they reply?
So the Imam says, look, I also say the same thing. I don't say anything about them. You don't see me bad-mouthing, cursing, abusing, insulting, holding secret meetings to, have lana, marathons.
Yeah.
None of that. That Ziyarat Ashura and all that narrative is not.
Yeah. There's no Ziyarat Ashura being recited here.
Exactly. So then Imam Ja'far says, Fattaqullaha rabbakum. He says, look, you people of Kufa, you fear Allah, your Lord. Wa in kuntum, you should have taqwa, man. You people are, you have such extreme views and you want to attribute them and impose them on us, AhlulBayt. You should fear Allah. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ بَايَعْتُمْ عَمِّي زَيْدَ بْنَ عَلِيٍّ فَفُوا لَهُ بِالْبَيْعَةِ. He says, and if you've really given bay'ah to my uncle Zayd bin Ali, then fulfill it وَقُومُوا بِحَقِّهِ, and fulfill his right. He has a right over you. After you give bay'ah to an imam from the AhlulBayt, you have to obey and support. You can't back out.
Imam Sadiq didn't say over here that, how could you give bay'ah to Imam Zayd? I'm the Imam.
Yeah, and no. Then he goes on to say,
Imam is getting wiped out as well now, by the way.
Exactly. He says, فَإِنَّهُ أَحَقُّ بِهَذَا الْأَمْرِ مِنْ غَيْرِهِ وَمِنِّي. Because right now, Imam Zayd is more worthy of this affair than anyone else, and also me, because I'm not standing up. Aslan, I'm not campaigning.
I'm not standing up doing jihad. Exactly. Makes sense.
Exactly. I'm not standing up and campaigning for Al-Imam Al-Kubra. I'm too busy teaching fiqh to my students here. I don't have time to lead uprisings.
That's my uncle. So
exactly, Imam Zayd is the one who is offering you imama on the political front. So if you have given him bay'ah and you promise to support him, go and support him. If you want to study fiqh under me, but for that you should not have given bay'ah to him then.
100%.
Right? Those who have not given bay'ah, they can continue studying fiqh under me, because we don't want the entire population, Shia population, to be wiped out. Some people should stay and study under Imams of Ahlul-Bayt and transmit the correct fiqh and sunnah of the Prophet. And others who have given the bay'ah and who are there in Kufa, they should support Imam Zayd.
And then?
فَرَجَعَ الْقَوْمُ إِلَى الْكُوفَةِ وَجَاءُوا حَتَّى دَخَلُوا عَلَى زَيْدِ بْنِ عَلِي. So then these people returned back to Kufa, and then they entered upon Imam Zayd bin Ali, and then the narrative goes on about the uprising. Okay, but actually, so this is Ibn Atham. If you go to other sources, you will see that there was a group among these very same people who obviously had no intention of supporting Imam Zayd. So then they went and they started building the whole foundation of divine imama and making Imam Ja'far.
In that narration, when Imam Zayd says that I don't speak khair upon, I speak khair about them, and I haven't heard my forefathers speaking anything but khair about them, and you should speak khair about them as well. Is that there as well?
Yeah, he says La taqul, that's at the beginning. I can show it.
He said that only speak khair about them, and I've never heard my forefathers speak anything but khair about them, and you should speak khair about them. You go over that again? Yes.
Let me show you. You see here, right at the beginning, he says mahlan, when he hears them calling them zalimain, oppressors. He says La taqulu fihima illa khayra. Don't say anything about them except that which is khair, that which is good.
Yeah, and then
فَإِنِّي لَا أَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا, because I don't say anything about them except that which is good.
And then
وَلَا سَمِعْتُ مِنْ آبَائِي أَحَدًا يَقُولُ فِيهِمَا إِلَّا خَيْرًا, and I have not heard from any of my ancestors or my forefathers anyone saying anything about them except khair.
Yeah, so 3. Speak khair about them. I speak khair about them. You speak khair about them, and I've never heard nothing from my forefathers but khair. 3.
Exactly. This is the ijma of the Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam, that you are not supposed to go around cursing, abusing, insulting, bad-mouthing these people. Even if you want to critique, obviously we always, in all the disputes, fadak, inheritance, all of this, we side with the Ahlul-Bayt.
Yes.
Okay.
But even though that exists, but this also exists, that we keep it care about them. Yeah.
Inshallah, towards the end, I will show you how the correct method of critique is in light of Kumayt's views.
In Kumayt's view. So say that's Imam Hussein's grandson. That's now Imam Zayd covered.
Yes.
Now what we want to do is, so Imam Zayd's mawqif is literally, it's a beautiful mawqif. And by the way, just for the viewers, most people know this, and obviously Sayyid Ustad, you know this, that it's in that same narration where the famous word Rafidah, where Imam Zayd then says that when they leave Imam Zayd says, you done raft, you left me. So,
Exactly.
So that's where the term, sometimes you hear Sunnis call the Shia extremists, are you Rafid, are you Rafidah? This term comes from Imam Zayd, because Imam Zayd called them Rafidah because they abandoned Imam Zayd.
And they abandoned him over his tawalli of the Shaykhayn.
Of the Shaykhayn. That's why the Sunnis use it naturally.
So now that became then a definition that anyone who does tabarri from the Shaykhayn, who publicly insults, curses, abuses, disassociates from them, that person then gets called a Rafidi.
It's quite ironic.
Now, yeah, let me just squeeze in one point, which is that, so that's why our Sunni audience, especially, it's important for them to understand that Shi'ism and Rafd are not the same thing.
Very good.
Okay,
Very good.
You can be a Shia like me without being a Rafidi. You don't have to.
Which is, by the way, Zaydis. It's like Zaydis. The Sunnis have always maintained that a majority of them, that the Zaydis are not Rafidi, because a lot of the Zaydis, that the Zaydi Imams, like Imam, a good example, like Imam Yahya bin Hamza, who was one of the other later AhlulBayt Imams, who was from the descendants of AhlulBayt, and he was a great scholar and Imam for them, rahmatullah alayh. He maintained the mawqif of Imam Zayd, and he also done tawalla with Shaykhayn. So Zaydi Imams, a lot of them that maintain the mawqif of Imam Zayd, it's for that specific reason. In the Ummah, the mainstream have a good opinion of Zaydis.
Exactly. If you ask Sunni scholars, they will say Zaydis are extremely moderate. Extremely moderate looks like an oxymoron. Like, they're very moderate. And the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, their scholarship says that, we don't have any problem with Zaydis. We can have unity with them because they respect our icons.
Because on a lot of issues, the Zaydis have maintained the original stances of the Ahlul-Bayt. It's just, when I say these things, these are just factual realities. It doesn't mean, it's just a fact that on a lot of issues, Zaydis have maintained original mawqifs of Ahlul-Bayt without ghulu.
Yeah, because they're taking from the ijma of the Ahlul-Bayt, from their Madani Imams. Whereas the mistake that the 12er Imamiyah did is they started taking from companions, like I will show you, Kufan companions who had made a name for themselves, cursing and abusing and denouncing and disassociating from the Shaykhayn. So if you're going to take your stance and mawqif from deviant companions and Imamiyah and sectarian ghulat, then obviously that's what you're going to end up with. But if you take from the Ahlul-Bayt, then the Zaydi position is what you end up with.
That's where Imam Zayd, the Zaydi position is the Hussaini Ahlul-Bayt position.
Is the Hussaini Ahlul-Bayt position on this issue, and we have no hesitation in admitting that. We are not sectarian people. They will say, oh, but the Zaydis will then score points. No, we love our Zaydi brothers, and where they're on haqq, we will admit they're on haqq. And where our people are on batil and they have departed from the stance of Ahlul-Bayt, we will admit that. And
you sometimes see the stream in Zaydism as well, because you see another stream in Zaydism, like the stream of when they, even like you mentioned earlier, some of their alids went and used the mawqif of Sayyidah Zahra and said that she died angry, so we're angry again. So you sometimes even see a stream amongst them that is kind of going away from the Imam Zayd mawqif. You see
exactly. But these are later Imams, huh?
That's later Imams, exactly.
Yeah. So they're not hujjah. Exactly. We define our stance as per Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Zayd, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. These are the Imams whose stance is hujjah for us in these matters. To show you is
one thing, Rafidism is something else. And Rafidism, by the way, it doesn't mean if you're a critical example, because sometimes the Sunnis go extreme on these issues. Example, if I say to you, or if you mention your mawqif on Fadak, or you say our Shaykhayn didn't with Fadak they were wrong, or they didn't rule well in terms of the AhlulBayt here, or they kind of slighted them here, or they could have done better here. This doesn't make you a Rafidi, by the way, because
if you're gonna say if you're going to say this makes you a Rafidi, then Imam Hussain alayhi salam becomes a Rafidi, wal-'iyadhu billah, because he is critiquing the Shaykhayn here when he says that فَاسْتَأْثَرَ عَلَيْنَا or فَاسْتُؤْثِرَ عَلَيْنَا, that they actually sidelined us, they pushed us aside, they gave preference to others over us.
We see this as the early AhlulBayt view. So if someone,
this is a critique.
This is a critique, and Sayyidah Zahra had a critique, the AhlulBayt had a critique. We maintained that critique. However, we also maintained tawalla, which is what the AhlulBayt showed us what to do, and that's how they practically done it, and they said it, and that's why the Shia is something else and Rafd is something else, and Imam Zayd was a good example of that.
Yeah, we critique them respectfully. We side with the AhlulBayt, but we don't curse, abuse, insult, none of that. We just present the evidence. This is mawqif of AhlulBayt. We support this mawqif. Here's the evidence. Here's why. But
and we speak khair, and like Imam Zayd, we speak khair of the Shia.
Yeah, we speak overall. We speak khair. Yeah, we don't speak evil of them.
So now you've got that Sayyid, now we just talked about Imam Sadiq and the Imamiyah. So that's Imam Zayd, that's Imam Hussain. How about Imam Sadiq?
Right. So with
because
Imam
in that narration, Imam Sadiq done tawalla with Shaykhayn in that same narration you presented.
Yes. Now the only issue that 12ers might have is that this is not our source. So we can show you from
suddenly it's our source. And Bukhari with Aisha, that's your source?
But luckily, alhamdulillah, the haqq is preserved in 12 Shia sources in this matter as well. This is one of the most authoritative and well-respected books of Ilm al-Rijal. A key primary reference for Ayatollah Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khuy throughout his 24-volume encyclopedia, Mu'jam Rijal al-Hadith wa Tafsil Tabaqat al-Ruwat. He relies on this book, Ikhtiyar Ma'rifat al-Rijal al-Ma'ruf bi Rijal al-Kashi. So here in this Rijal al-Kashi, you find, this is the Qum edition, by the way, which is edited by Al-Allama Jawad Al-Qayyum Al-Isfahani and published by Mu'assasat Al-Nashr Al-Islami At-Tabi'a li Jama'at Al-Mudarrisin bi Qum. This is the Teachers Association of the Hawza Ilmiya of Qum, which has...
Is that the one where he's graded some of the narrations as well in it?
Who?
The Muhaqqiq.
The Muhaqqiq. He hasn't given the gradings. I will share with you the gradings independently, inshallah.
Okay, cool.
So not to worry about that. So,
because for the viewers, as you know, Rijal Kashi is one of those where the Rijali judgments are in form of narrations from the Imam, so they require Rijal on that as well.
Exactly. But
this
this narration that I'm presenting you is considered to be authentic by traditional standards. It's the Hadith of Khalid. We have a separate broadcast.
We have a separate show, so we can kind of just
on this. So in any way, Aban ibn Uthman al-Ahmar from Abu Basir, كنت جالسا عند أبي عبد الله. This is now in the presence, in the majlis of Imam Abu Abdullah Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Khalid comes to him and her hand had been cut off by Yusuf bin Umar. تستأذن عليه. She sought permission to enter in his presence. Imam Abu Abdullah alayhi salam said to Abu Basir, أيسرك أن تشهد كلامها? Does it please you to watch her, to see her speech? فقلت نعم. Yes. جعلت فداك. May I be your ransom? فقال أما الآن فدنو. So he said, okay, then come near me. فأجلسني على الطنفسة. The Imam made me sit on the rug. ثم دخلت فتكلمت. Then Khalid entered and she spoke. فإذا هي امرأة بليغة. She was a very eloquent woman. فسألته عن فلان وفلان. So she asked him about fulan and fulan.
And the code word start, you know what that means?
Yeah, this has been censored because it's narrated by Imami 12ers, right? So they like to go with fulan and fulan for Abu Bakr. If you look at the commentaries of Rijal al-Kashi, you will see no one is in dispute that this is talking about Abu Bakr and Umar. Okay. So she asked him about Abu Bakr and Umar. What is the stance? What should our mawqif as Shia? Because we are your Shia, ya Imam Ja'far. So you tell us, what should our stance be towards the Shaykhayn? The Imam says, tawallihima. I order you and command you to do tawalli with them. Yani, to befriend them and to show love and association with them. Qalat. Khalid obviously has been listening to the Kufan narrative, that these are zalimain. Yes. Remember that zalimain?
Which is the zalimain,
Yeah, so because of this, when Imam tells her to her face that I want you to do tawalli with the Shaykhayn, she's a bit confused. In fact, she is skeptical because she's been hearing too much of the Kufan narrative, right? The Ghulat. So that's why she feels Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, and the Ghulat have also already spread that, Imam Sadiq, if he tells you things that are going against what we have told you, understand that he's doing taqiyya. So that's why he comes up with a way to get Imam Hussain to abandon, to get Imam Ja'far to abandon his taqiyya.
Yeah, which
Now,
he
how do
thinks
you,
is good. Yeah.
how do you get, which he thinks he is doing.
Yeah, which he thinks he's doing. We get
So
so confused in this sometimes that we.
How do you get someone who is doing taqiyya? Suppose, Sayyid Raza, you are hiding something of the truth from me, and I want you to speak that truth. So how will I get you to do it? By reminding you to fear Allah. The way to get someone to abandon taqiyya is to remind them of taqwa, right?
Yes.
Ahsantum. So Umm Khalid reminds Imam Sadiq. She says, wait a minute, you are telling me to do tawalli with Shaykhayn. Are you serious? Are you sure? فَأَقُولُ لِرَبِّي إِذَا لَقِيتُهُ إِنَّكَ أَمَرْتَنِي بِوِلَايَتِهِمَا. Are you prepared? And this is a Sahih narration. Are you prepared that to meet your Lord in a state whereby I also come in front of your Lord on the day of judgment? When you meet him and I say in front of Allah, I tell Allah about you that innaka amartani bi wilayatihima, that you were the one who ordered me and commanded me to do tawalli with these two Shaykhayn.
Now she's
because I'm going to use this against you on the day of judgment. If you are misleading me and misguiding me, then be careful. I'm going to use this against you on the day of judgment. This will be my hujjah. Are you prepared? Now, she was thinking that if the Kufans are right, this would be the time that Imam Ja'far Sadiq would say, okay, taqiyya filter off, let me tell you the truth now. But no, the Imam says, what do you mean I'm prepared to meet my Lord? Na'am, of course I'm prepared to meet my Lord, and I'm prepared to take the burden for this stance on the day of judgment.
That's it.
Then Khalid comes out and explains to Imam why she was doubting him. She says, فَإِنَّ هَذَا الَّذِي مَعَكَ عَلَى الطِّنْفِسَةِ يَأْمُرُنِي بِالْبَرَاءَةِ مِنْهُمَا. She says, the problem is that this companion of yours, Abu Basir, she's talking about, this companion of yours actually claims and actually tells me to do bara'ah, to do tabarri from the Shaykhayn. Do you see the problem? That this Abu Basir is a very close student of yours. He's sitting in your majlis. He comes to me and he tells me I should do tabarri. But I have come to you now, the source, and you are telling me to do tawalli. So do you see the contradiction between what Imam Ja'far is teaching and what some of his sectarian students and companions are transmitting to the people of Kufa? She says, on the other hand, وَكَثِيرُ النَّوَىٰ يَأْمُرُنِي بِوِلَايَتِهِمَا فَأَيُّهُمَا أَحَبُّ إِلَيْكَ. But Kathirun Nawa actually orders me to do tawalli with the Shaykhayn. So who of the two is more beloved to you? Now remember, who is narrating this? Abu Basir
himself.
And now he's saying that the woman asked Imam Sadiq, who is more beloved, Kathirun Nawa or Abu Basir?
Let me guess. Let me guess. He says Kathir Nawa. He's not going to give you it that easy. Not that easy.
It's not that easy, my friend.
It's not that easy, lad.
So he says, no. هذا والله وأصحابه أحب إلي من كثير النوى وأصحابه. No. This person, even though he's teaching you the opposite of what I teach you, but still he somehow is more beloved to me than Kathir Nawa and his companions. إن هذا يخاصم فيقول من لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الظالمون. This person, this Abu Basir, actually goes out and argues from these verses of the Quran that whoever doesn't judge by what Allah has revealed is a kafir, whoever doesn't judge by what Allah has revealed is a zalim. All these verses from Surah Al-Ma'idah. فَلَمَّا خَرَجَتْ. Then Abu Basir says that when she left, when Khalid left, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. So you see, this had happened in front of everyone. Now Abu Basir has to save face because he has been exposed as teaching the opposite of what Imam Ja'far is teaching to the people. So that's why he now transmits to us. He says, this was all taqiyya which Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq.
Whenever the narration starts in the end, the narration finishes and then it says, and then everyone left. As soon as it says that, everyone just stop and just be like, hold on. Crime scene has started.
Exactly, because that's how the ghulat, ghulat, a lot of the times they were grabbed by the collar and taken and presented in front of the Imam. And the Imam is said that, these people are claiming divinity, and the Imam rejects and denounces and all of that. So the ghulat feel exposed. They feel exposed. So then later on when the ghulat go out, they say, actually when you guys left, the Imam turned to me and said, I was doing taqiyya.
And the Imam says, अंदर वाली बात बताता हूँ.
I'm actually the real God. Yeah, but I'm too scared to announce it.
Mufaddal bin Umar is actually thicker. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So in any case, فَلَمَّا خَرَجَتْ, when Khalid had left, because you see, Abu Basir does not want Khalid to contradict him. She can call him out and say, well, we were both in the presence of Imam Ja'far, and Imam Ja'far, in front of you, he said to me, do tawalli. So now Abu Basir has to come up with a new narrative. He says, okay, yeah, in front of you, he said that, but falamma kharajat, after she left, when I was only left.
Of course.
Okay, no one else, only me.
No one else. Yeah.
Conveniently, only he heard this. The Imam, he claims that the Imam turned to him and he said, Inni khashitu an tadhhaba fatukhbira kathiran nawa fatushhirani bil kufa. That, I actually was fearful that she would go and inform Kathirun Nawa of my stance, my real stance, which the riwayah is assuming is a stance of tabarri, same as that of Abu Basir. So I was afraid that if I told her do tabarri, she would go and tell Kathirun Nawa, fatushhirani bil Kufa, and then my affair would become famous in Kufa. Everyone in Kufa would know that Imam Ja'far is doing tabarri. And then he says, Allahumma inni ilayka min kathirin nawa'i bari'un fi dunya wal akhirah. Oh Allah, I disassociate myself from kathirun nawa in this dunya and akhirah. But our key point, remember, Sayyid Raza, is that Abu Basir is claiming that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was fearful of being exposed as being someone who does tabarri. He was fearful of his matter becoming exposed to the people of Kufa. But he's not afraid of this matter becoming exposed in front of Allah on the day of judgment. This is what this Rawi expects us to believe. That Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, wal-'iyadhu billah, is more scared of the people of Kufa.
Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, always emphasize al-Sadiq.
Al-Sadiq, the truthful one, the one
the Ummah knows him as al-Sadiq.
The Ummah knows him as al-Sadiq, as the trustworthy, the truthful one, not the double-faced Imam that these sectarian narrators are trying to portray him as, just to save their own face after they get exposed in public.
Bilkul. So this is wadih, clear testimony of Imam Sadiq on tawalla of Shaykhayn.
Exactly. So my Imam Hussain alayhi salam is telling me this. My beloved Imam Zayd alayhi salam is telling me this. My beloved Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is telling me this. Why should I not take this mawqif? I have no just cause.
After all this, Sayyid, if someone uses the Sayyidah Zahra salamu alayha mawqif that's attributed via al-Mu'mineen Aisha, you really need to understand that when you say you're being Shia of Ali, you need to start using your brains. Because something's not adding up. If you want to still believe Sayyidah Zahra died angry, I'm not going to push it on you. I'll say, fine, if you really believe that in terms of the funeral, them not being called to the funeral, and she indeed died angry, you can still hold it if you want, but you have to accept that the AhlulBayt afterwards were not upon this mawqif.
Absolutely.
You can. My problem, I'm giving you an alternative mawqif. You want to keep on to both, you then have to accept that AhlulBayt afterwards reconciled and left Sayyidah Zahra's mawqif.
No, so either you say that Ahlul-Bayt went against Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha, which is not a narrative.
That's them. Her mawqif's different, our mawqif's different. They can say that.
Yeah, but I don't find that plausible. Ahlul-Bayt were one family.
I know that when the Shia is presented with that, they're not going to find it plausible either.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense. It's Sayyidah Zahra died angry, and Imam Hussain is saying, yeah, but wal-'iyadhu billah, ignore her. We are happy. No. The fact that Imam Hussain was angry, was happy, and he expressed his pleasure, shows us that even Sayyidah Fatima, by the time she left this world, there was something that Imam Hussain saw in her towards the end of her life, which al-Mu'mineen Aisha, by the way, was not privy to, because she's not living inside the house. Yeah, she's observing things from a distance.
It's not hard because we have we don't have to make when you add these things up, we're just going with the AhlulBayt smoking, but I'm saying to kind of give more authority to the AhlulBayt's reading, you have the narrations in Sunni sources which come via mursal reading, sanad sahih, but it's mursal that of people that came later that mention that Sayyidah Zahra got pleased with Shaykhayn later as well. So that reading exists as well. It's there. Yeah, it's you can say it's mursal or whatever. The point is that this is not a clear-cut issue. So don't make this the be all and end all to make a mawqif on Shaykhayn when you have all the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt that came later, the years of Imam Ali's dealings with them, the years of Hassan Hussein's dealings with them, Imam Bakr, Imam Sadiq, Imam Zayd. Ignore all of that and say, I've got one narration of al-Mu'mineen Aisha, who's never a hujjah for the Shia anyway.
Exactly.
This is how research is done. Do you get it?
Yeah, I'm aware, I'm familiar, Sayyid Raza, with the narrations you are referring to in the sources, which are not very strong chains, by the way, where it is shown that Abu Bakr actually went and visited Sayyidah Fatima.
Yeah, I'm just academic honesty. I'm saying, look, that also exists there. It's there, like everything. People can also go towards that, yeah.
Closer to her death, he actually went to the deathbed. He apologized to her and said that, look, he tried to rectify, and they reconciled and all of that. But we are not even basing our stance on that.
Yeah, we're not. Literally. I'm just letting the Shia know it does exist. Our mawqif is on Ahlul-Bayt.
Look, if Sunni narrators came forward, purely Sunni narrators, and they said that, they reconciled, we would be like, yeah, we don't know if we can trust you on this matter.
We need Ahlul-Bayt, yeah.
Yeah, but what the narrations that we are presenting to you are narrations of the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt, which are authenticated. As I mentioned, this maqtal is authenticated by 12 Shia scholarship. So it's the best, it's the best evidence.
That's why we've laid out the case of Sayyidah Zahra. We've laid out thing. Now, yes. I think
just towards the end, I just left out one thing because I promised I would share with you evidence of authentication. No. This narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about tawalli.
Because you dealt with this narration in detail in your other lecture, so we can even link that because you've gone over this whole Khalid thing in detail. So go for the authentication regardless.
True. But the authentication I have not yet shared. So
okay, go for it.
This is Mu'jam al-Hadith al-Mu'tabara, okay, by Ayatollah Sheikh Muhammad Asif Muhsini, in which he compiles only the authentic narrations from the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam. This is volume 1. If you come to page 171 to 172, this is where Kathirun Nawa wa Ashabihi wa Ummu Khalid. As you can see, the narration which I've highlighted, he has included that narration from Rijal al-Kashi, which has the statement of Imam Sadiq, Tawallihima. He's telling Khalid that she should do tawalla. So this narration has been authenticated by the top student of Ilm al-Rijal from among the students of Ayatollah Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khuyi, who is Ayatollah Sheikh Muhammad Asif Muhsini. So by 12er, traditional 12er Shia standards, it is correct. And it shows you in public, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam telling Khalid, and by extension, all of us, that you can do tawalli with the Shaykhayn, number 1. Number 2, I'm even prepared to take the burden for this. If you think I'm misleading you and misguiding you, and if you think that this will result in problems for you on the Day of Judgment, I am guaranteeing you that you can complain on the Day of Judgment. If this is really batil, it is not batil, but if it is batil, you can tell Allah on the Day of Judgment that I did taqleed of Imam Sadiq and I'll take responsibility for you.
The mawqif that we have here and that we're promoting here is not some mawqif, astaghfirullah, enemies of Sayyidah Zahra, enemies of Ahlul-Bayt. This mawqif is the mawqif of Ahlul-Bayt. And when we say we're trying to give you a version of Islam that's the early Shia reading, that's all this is. Now, if you want to accept the Kufan later reading where they're calling what is your view on the Zalimain onto Imam Zayd and accept that reading, that's fine. But at least have the academic honesty to say, yeah, these lot have a reading and this reading also goes back to Ahlul-Bayt. You can reject it if you want, but know that our view is the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif that we're presenting. We're not making this up. So, when we're saying Tarahum or Taraddi and Hazrat, at least now in the future, and we owe it to our Shia audience, it's not their fault. Their whole lives, they've been told they're the killers of Sayyidah Zahra. Of course, the Shia is going to say, how are you respecting Abu Bakr Umar? It makes no sense. And you accept Fadak, you accept the altercation outside the house, you accept that Khilafah, they kind of missed out in the Ahlul-Bayt and kind of done the election without them and didn't treat them well like that. So how you're accepting all this, but you're still saying Tarahum and Hazrat. So I understand the Shia, it's fair. He's going to be like, it doesn't make sense. I hope after today's lecture, it makes more sense of, okay, now we understand where you lot are coming from. And wow, I never knew this version of early Shiism, this early version, that alhamdulillah, many Zaydis are still upon and they have been historically. Now, Sayyid, what I wanted to the point is that as a conclusion, as a finale, I wanted you to present the evidence of a early Shia who applied this practice of, well, we've given the Ahlul-Bayt, but I want now an early Shia who's recognized as an early Shia by the Ummah for his moderation when it came to Shaykhayn, but at the same time maintaining the critique on issues like Fadak. A balanced mawqif that me and you can relate to and we are potentially upon ourselves.
Exactly, something that we can adopt. We gave you the example of the Imams of Ahlul-Bayt. Now look at their earliest Shia, okay, who are not in denial about what transpired in history, but they have a nuanced, sophisticated, academic, respectable mawqif, which the entire Ummah can appreciate and admire. And I have seen great scholars of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah recite the poetry of this individual. I'm talking about Kumayt ibn Zayd al-Asadi. He is a contemporary, rahmatullah alayhi, he's a contemporary of Imam Abu Ja'far al-Bakr alayhi salatu wasalam. And Imam Zayd alayhi salam, he even eulogizes and does marthiyah for Imam Zayd alayhi salam. And he is someone whose tashayyu is not in doubt, because he never did taqiyya about his tashayyu. He's openly pronouncing and proclaiming his tashayyu in his poetry. And in fact, Imam Bakr alayhi salam praised him for this and said that, may Allah bless you, you actually defended us Ahlul-Bayt at a time when no one else was brave enough to speak about us and to mention our fada'il and our excellence and our virtue and talk about us the way you talk about us. So this is someone highly praised by Imam al-Bakr alayhi salam as well. I want to show you his divan, his anthology of poetry, of which there have been
poetry. He was famous.
Yes, of which there have been many editions. I'm presenting you a very good edition, Sharh Hashimiyat al-Kumayt ibn Zayd al-Asadi. This is بتفسير أبي رياش أحمد ibn Ibrahim al-Qaysi. It has been edited by Dr. Dawood Salloum and Dr. Nouri Hamoudi al-Qaysi, and it's published by Alam al-Kutub. First, I want to bring you to page 50. This is one of his most famous lines. I want to show you, because a lot of people may not know Kumayt.
Yes, yes. Right,
and who he was and what kind of... So look at him. This is his poetry, one of his most celebrated poems. It's called, it's one of the best of his Hashimiyat. In it, he says, Famali, and this poetry was circulated and it was transmitted widely. He says, Famali illa ala Ahmad shi'atun. وَمَا إِلَّا مَشْعَبَ الْحَقِّ مَشْعَبُ. In another version of this, وَمَا إِلَّا مَذْهَبَ الْحَقِّ مَذْهَبُ. He says, I do not have any people in this world whom I would consider myself to be a Shia of and a supporter of, and whom I would consider to be my leaders and my allies, other than Alu Ahmad, the progeny of Ahmad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
He's one of our guys. He's our guy. He's our guy.
Exactly. He's one of us. وَمَا لِي إِلَّا مَشْعَبَ الْحَقِّ مَشْعَبُ. And he says, I don't have any madhab, any school, or any path except the path of haqq. So he's saying the school of Ahlul-Bayt is the school of haqq.
SubhanAllah.
He's openly declaring this. He's not doing taqiyya. He's not hiding stuff, not whitewashing. Now look at what he has to say about the Shaykhayn. Allah, I love this. I love these lines.
I've heard this Arabism. I've heard the eloquence on this Arabic gets memorized as well.
We use this to prove his poetry is so eloquent and so amazing. Actually, when we teach our students of advanced level, when we teach them Arabic grammar, we use fragments and pieces from his poetry to prove points of Arabic grammar. We do istishhad from him. That's how eloquent he is. So look at these beautiful lines. This is basically our kind of tashayyu. He says, Ahwa aliyan amir al-mu'minina. I am absolutely madly in love with Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, with the commander of the faithful. Ahwa, hawa is the highest, it's like a kind of ishq. Mujhe, Amir al-Mu'mineen say ishq. He's expressing his ishq. Remember, at a time when Banu Umayyah are in power,
yeah, he's doing it. Yeah, he's not doing it in 21st century on a laptop. He's doing it on.
Absolutely, he's doing it in the shade of the swords, as we say.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
He's going public with this. Yes, Ahwa Aliyan Amir al-Mu'mineen.
This is saying this is a death sentence, basically.
It's a death sentence, but he doesn't fear. He doesn't care. Yeah, he's ashiq. He's majnoon in the ishq
Without the ghulu, huh? Majnoon without the ghulu, huh?
Majnoon without the ghulu,
Yeah,
and without the raft, mashallah.
yeah, without the raft, mashallah. Without the
So
ghulu.
he says, Ahwa aliyan amir al-mu'minina. I am absolutely in love with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Wala arda bi shatmi Abi Bakr wala Umara. But I am absolutely, I disapprove, I am not pleased that Abu Bakr and Umar should be cursed or abused or vilified. Do you understand? People think love for Amir al-Mu'mineen, love for Ahlul-Bayt, love for Janab Zahra means that you are supposed to have, wal-iyadu billah, a foul mouth. You should be cursing like a sailor or a fisherman when the names of Abu Bakr and Umar are mentioned. This is not tashayyu'. This is ghulu. This is rafd. The true tashayyu' of the early period is ahwa aliyan amir al-mu'mineen. No one is saying you don't love Amir al-Mu'mineen. You should pronounce and proclaim your love for Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen. But at the same time, wala arda. I am not pleased and I disapprove. La arda, I am not pleased. I disapprove of shatm, of cursing and abusing and vilifying Abu Bakr and Umar.
Yes.
Okay. Number two. So now I know the traditional ghulu influence Shia will say this Kumayt man doesn't know history. That's why he's born inside a cocoon. He doesn't know anything that happened in history. That's why he has this mawqif.
So Kumayt doesn't know. Yeah.
So Kumayt is schooling this Shia now and saying, Baba, don't think I'm an ignoramus, huh? Yeah. I'm not a fool. Yeah. I'm not a fool. I know the stuff that happened. But despite that,
that's what's important. That's what's important. Yeah.
Yes. Despite knowing everything that happened.
Yeah.
Wala aqulu. So here he shows you evidence of what happened. He says, Wala aqulu wa illam yu'tiya fadakan bint ar-rasuli wala mirathahu kafara. He says, and I do not say, even though I know that the both of them deprived Sayyida Zahra of fadak. They did not give the fadak to her. They did not give fadak to bint al-Rasul, to the daughter of the Rasul. And not just fadak, wala mirathahu. They also did not give the mirath, the inheritance.
Yes.
Which Sayyida Zahra was entitled to as per the Quran. If a person leaves only one daughter, then she gets half of the estate of the deceased. So he's saying, Baba, I'm aware of all of this. Don't think I don't know. I know they didn't give fadak. I know they didn't give the inheritance. But despite all of this, wala aqulu kafara. Despite this, I don't say that they became kafir, that they apostated and exited the fold of Islam because of depriving Sayyidina.
Many extreme Shia will say.
Exactly. The ghulat of his time, this is what they were saying. He's refuting them.
The ghulat of the time had started doing, it's interesting because in the time of Imam Zayd, they said dalim.
Yeah. Now they have come to kafir.
In his time, it's kafir.
It's kafir. It basically, the ghulu kept getting worse and worse and worse.
Is his time the same time as Imam Zayd or a little bit after?
After the martyrdom of Imam Zayd. And he's a contemporary of Imam al-Bakr alayhi salam, right?
Oh, so it's pretty much the same time as Imam Zayd then?
Yeah. And in his poem, you will see him doing marthi of Imam Zayd as well. So this is after Imam Zayd has been martyred.
Okay. Yeah, go on, carry on.
So they started with zalim and now they have progressed to calling him kafir. So Kumayt is refuting them and saying, Baba, look, no one is denying that yes, these things happened. Fadak happened. Inheritance was deprived. All of this, we are aware of that. We are not in the dark. We are not playing hide and we are not covering this up. We are not whitewashing taqiyya. None of that. We know all of this happened. But despite knowing all of this, we don't take the extremist position of saying, well, because they did these things, now they are outside the fold of Islam, they apostated.
We abuse them or curse them, etc.
No, in fact, Kumayt says, I will never approve of any cursing and abusing for the Shaykhayn. So then, this begs the question, Kumayt, so then if you don't say, despite your knowing all of what happened,
what do you say?
then what do you say? What is your mawqif? Yeah. So his mawqif is, he says, I say, Allahu ya'lamu madha ya'tiyani bihi yawm al-qiyamati min udhrin idha i'tadara. He says, so when you are asking Kumayt the question, okay, so then what do you say about what they did at Fadak? What do you say about their depriving her of her inheritance and all of that? He says, my stance is that I say Allah knows best. what they will offer as excuse on the day of judgment when Allah asks them about this matter. So I am surrendering this matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for judgment on the day of judgment. This is, by the way, the mawqif of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha.
Yes.
He says, "Wal hakamullah," the arbitrator of all these disputes is going to be Allah on the day of judgment. You people don't
involve yourself. Don't involve yourself and mess up and ruin the unity of the ummah.
Yes, exactly. Don't use these things to fuel sectarian tensions, to separate from the ummah, to build your own cult and your own rival sect. I don't want any of that. I want you to stay one community, one ummah. Your future, your glory, your advancement lies in you being one ummah, not with you hating each other and cursing each other's icons and revered figures.
Subhanallah, is that all of it, Sayyid?
Yeah, but after that, he goes on to say, "Innal waliya aliyun ghayra ma hajara." You know, Ali is our wali. He talks about Rasulullah. He talks about Imam. Look at his statement about Imam Ali. Huwa al-imamu imamul haqqi na'rifuhu. He is the Imam of Haqq, and we consider him our Imam. Okay, la kalladhayn istazalla bima tamara. Okay, we don't accept. We are not, for us, hujjah are not those two people and what they did and those people who conspired at Saqifa and all of that. We don't consider them our hujjah. But because we see that the stance of our imams is to basically show that kind of tawalli, that's why we are basically showing that loyalty. And this is where he does mercy of Imam Zayd. He says, يَعِزُّ عَلَى أَحْمَدٍ بِالَّذِي أَصَابَ ابْنَهُ أَمْسِ مِنْ يُوسُفِ. He says it would be very difficult and painful for the Prophet ﷺ to be told of what Yusuf, you know, the ruler who fought against him.
At that time.
Yeah, of
the
what,
real zalim. The real zalim.
Yeah, the real zalim, exactly. Of what befell his son. Which son was of the Prophet was killed by Yusuf? Imam Zayd. So that's why the commentator explains. He says, "يريد يوسف بن عمر الثقفي وهو الذي قتل زيد بن علي بن الحسين بن علي رضوان الله عليهم أجمعين." So he says that Yusuf bin Umar al-Thaqafi is the one who killed Zayd bin Ali, and Kumayt is expressing grief at that. And then look at what he says about Yusuf. He says, خبيث من العصبة الأخبثين وإن قلت زانين لم أقذفي. He says this Yusuf who killed Imam Zayd is a khabith. He's a wicked person from a party or a clan of wicked people. And if I were to say that he's actually also guilty of adultery, I would not be accused of slander. Yani these are really evil and wild people. So notice how he's calling out Banu Umayyah. He's not in Taqiyya, Baba. A person in Taqiyya would not speak so openly against the rulers of the Banu Umayyah.
He's in the Sunni Rijal books. He will be called a fiery Shia. Fiery Shia.
Yes, but the Sunnis are very, you will notice they're grand scholars. They say this is tashayyu' min ghayri rafd. This is tashayyu', but it is free of rafd. He's not cursing and abusing the Shaykhayn. And that's why the grandest scholars of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they have said we are okay. If Shias could adopt the tashayyu' of Kumayt, we would be okay with that. We wouldn't have a problem. We wouldn't have disunity.
We know historically with the Zaydis, they've been. We know with the Zaydis, they always give mithal of Zaydis, don't they? There's a reason.
True. So when this is also, you see, if this was only an isolated view of Imam Zayd, I would say okay. But when this is also established to be the stance of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, then why can't traditional 12er Imamiyya, why can't they also, align with this? And once you align with this, then it becomes easy for you to follow the verdicts of your own maraja who are telling you the same thing.
Yeah, but the maraja can't. The maraja need to put this out there.
And the problem is the maraja
fatwa to the idea, don't curse. But every year, mention that Sayyidah Zahra's martyrdom is authentic and say don't curse. Yeah, so
that doesn't work.
let's not let me be the wakil for the awam now. Well, every year you say Kitab Salim or private bahat, something else publicly, say the Zahra's martyrdom is Abu Bakr Umar, celebrate Eid Zahra, then don't curse them. Slap me but say I can't slap back.
Yeah. नहीं ये तो बिल्कुल है क्या you pour water on our hands and then say don't get wet.
Now today we've dealt with the Sayyidah Zahra being angry. We dealt with the Bibi Aisha narration. Then we dealt with the AhlalBayt mawqif. Now if today, Sayyid Ali Hur, you say we should do tawalla to Shaykhayn based on the AhlalBayt, I can follow that now because it makes sense. Because you've dealt with Sayyidah Zahra's anger issue, you dealt with his tawalla narrations, you've given me the AhlalBayt's mawqif. Now I'll be like, now I understand this is the AhlalBayt's view. I can follow this. If you just say, no, Abu Bakr, Umar are dhalim, they done ghasb of imama, of divine imama, they killed Sayyidah Zahra, but no, don't curse them. So who do you curse them?
Yeah, that's like saying, Ibn Muljil killed Imam Ali, but you can't say La'natullah alayhi, even though in the Quran Allah says the murderer is cursed by Allah. And Yazid killed Imam Hussain, but you can't do La'na on him. So ये नहीं चलेगा.
ये नहीं चलेगा. नहीं चलेगा. Yeah, we need ये नहीं चलेगा. So very good, Nasid.
As our Swahili friends would say, hiyo haifai kabisa. We can't, haifai kabisa. You have to give them a consistent narrative. That's why our youths are openly flouting and rebelling against the Marja'iyah. And they are actually appreciating a fitna monger like Yasir al-Habib. Our youths are actually being attracted towards the Shirazi group.
Say, why are you going far? I was your student was attracted to him once upon a time.
Allah, astaghfirullah.
Your student has sat with him.
Oh, really?
I've sat with him.
Well, obviously, he's giving them a consistent narrative. He's saying that, look, they are zalimain and we curse them, therefore.
It's very logical.
Not that they are zalimain, but no, we can't curse them.
Or zaliman, to matlab, zalimain, you to say, qatl of Sayyidah Zahra, loves it, zalim seems low for it. Did you get it?
True, but
Sayyid, mashallah, today we have covered a lot of ground. Mashallah, we very the real asli Shia mawqif and the Ahlul-Bayt's mawqif on the Shaykhayn, which is the accurate one, which is historically sound, which is a reading that can bring unity for the Ummah, which is a fair reading, which the moderate and the researching Shia can respect and understand. The researcher and moderate Sunni can understand that actually this is what is needed for unity, and it's a fair reading. We've presented that from the Ahlul-Bayt, from the early Shia, with evidences, and we've also dealt with the famous kind of issue of Sayyidah Zahra. To an extent, we've put it out there so that people can understand different perspectives on this. People can disagree, but at least they've understood that, hold on, like, you do need to solve this puzzle, because this is a puzzle about Sayyidah Zahra and the Ahlul-Bayt afterwards. We've tried to solve the puzzle by giving you a reading. You want to disagree? Wallah, no issue. Then you solve it. Because I've tried solving it for years. It doesn't solve. You try it. We've tried to give you a solving. You have something else to give it. But if your only answer is, no, we still believe in that, but we believe the Ahlul-Bayt done tawalla as well. Okay, then you have to deal with, okay, that means the Ahlul-Bayt and Sayyidah Zahra had different mawqif on it. That's fine, whatever. It may be, this could be true, I don't know. But all I know is, when the Ahlul-Bayt kept this mawqif and Imam Hussain, we have, like you corrected me before actually, and I'll correct myself, it's not only that, it seems like a tanaqud at the same time, because Imam Hussain says we were pleased, we were upset, then we became pleased. Imam Zayd says, I haven't heard my forefathers speaking bad about them. We know, so therefore we've got enough evidences to go through that. Why do we have to go by a narration from al-Mu'minin Aisha and use that just to establish a narrative because of preconceived notion against Shaykhayn? Why?
Exactly. And there is a set of evidences that we didn't present in this presentation because there wasn't time to. Actually, this Abu Mikhnaf narrates from Imam Ali alayhi salam writing letters to people in Egypt, confirming the same Imam Hussain narrative to the people of Basra, and the Imam Zayd narrative and the Imam Ja'far narrative. So basically, after this, I'm actually really grateful to you, Sayyid Raza, very grateful to you and to the Al-Islah admins for facilitating this session and actually giving us the opportunity to explain our mawqif, because until now, I'm sure, a lot of people who are watching the past episodes that we did on Fatimiyya, they must have been wondering that, okay, you people do acknowledge that there's some circumstantial evidence, and there was fadak and there was this. And so despite all of this, you people are exerting so much energy, over 2-hour sessions
to defend them.
To defend and to basically, disprove the murder, narrative and the killing of, Janabi Muhsin and all of that. Why are you exerting so much effort to exonerate personalities from a charge of murder when, they, at least to a certain degree, you accept that, you know, there were some shortcomings against the AhlulBayt. So like, we don't understand, why are you so eager to present all of this research and refute the buhtan and lies against them? Well, this is why, because we knew that until we present to you all that evidence, this evidence will not make sense.
Will not make sense. This is why we had to do it like this.
Yes, when we started the Fatimiyya series, our audience was, you know, they had been fed with the traditional notion that these are murderers, these are this, these are that. So we refuted the murder part, and we brought it to the actual historical narrative, which is, yes, that there were certain property-related disputes, mirath, humus, all of that. Humus of spoils of war, by the way. Humus in that time was not on salary or savings and that. So now we have, I hope people can begin to understand and appreciate our mawqif and why we approach the Shaykhayn in the manner that we do.
Our mawqif is the mawqif of Ahlul-Bayt. Simple as that. If you want to have mawqif of the people of Kufa and Ghulat, that's fine. But we're Shia. Simple.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are the earliest. We subscribe to the earliest position.
I'm going to take you back to the early Shia, and the earlier Shia were calling upon Allah, and they were upon Tawheed and Muwahideen, and they had moderate stances. Simple as that. So that's the beauty of the Ummah, and that's the beauty of people will come towards Tashayyu, not with the version of Tashayyu what you've made Shiaism into today. So Sayyid, Dr. Sayyid Ali Hur Kamanpuri, Hafidullah, said, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time. I really appreciate it, Sayyid, for all the gems you've dropped today, for all of the sources you gathered, giving us so much of your time. I really appreciate it, Sayyid. Thank you so much. Would anything final you want to add, or pretty much all from your side?
Yeah, no, I want to reiterate my gratitude to you and the Al-Islah admins and the membership who support us for facilitating all of this and giving us the opportunity to really put forward something that we are prepared to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with, because
the way Imam Sadiq said it.
Exactly. This is the mawqif. I am prepared to meet Allah on the Day of Judgment. And if he asks me that why did you go in public and do this, I'll say I was doing taqleed of Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, and not blind taqleed. I could see the wisdom in it. I could see the khair of the ummah, ya akhi. This ummah will be torn apart to pieces. Fires will rage in it.
Like it has been.
It has been.
We're trying to, it's torn already. We're trying to repair it now, basically.
Exactly. Things like, you know, projects like the Lady of Heaven movie and Fatimiyya, where you go on the mimbar and you recite all those Kitab Sulaim fabricated narratives, and then you invoke curses and lana and this and dushmanani AhlalBayt and all of that. Baba, this will tear apart the ummah. It will cement the divide. It will destroy the vision that our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Imams of AhlulBayt had for this ummah. They had high hopes for this ummah. They had high vision for this ummah. They wanted a unified ummah under Allah, under one God. And the ghulat and rawafid and sectarian elements tried to break that, to make money out of it, to profit from disunity. And we want to undo that and return back to the original. So all I can say is make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you, Sayyid Raza, for the Al-Islah admins, for the Al-Islah audience, for all our Shia and Sunni and Salafi, all viewership. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand this and unify upon the haqq of the Kitab and Sunnah and the early stance of the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimus salam.
Ameen. Allah accept it from us. And Sayyid, I've got to say thank you to you, Sayyid. MashaAllah, you're our ustad. We're lucky. The Shia audience are as much as our nations tend to be. We tend to curse people, and when they die, we start praising them. So as when you're alive doing the jihad, people don't appreciate you. And I say jihad in terms of fil qalam, in terms of our speeches and lectures. So I, say that all the efforts that you do, it's, at the end of the day, we have more to lose by doing this. We've only lost in this dunya, but inshallah, we will gain in the akhirah by this. So say that really appreciate, the whole high sentiments and appreciation for you, Sayyid, for your efforts. You don't have to thank me. I'm here with you. You're leading us, alhamdulillah. I'm here with you, Sayyid. So thank you, Sayyid, so much for your time and, putting this as work to try and do Islah of the Shia. And there will come a time when the Shia will realize this. Inshallah, there will come a time. So Sayyid, thank you so much for today. The viewers, I hope you benefited. This is our research on this issue. It was a pending issue. It was a burning issue. It had to be addressed. We've put in the work. There's always more to add, but, Allah accept it from us in terms of what we have given you. And hopefully for the people that are sincere, even one evidence is enough, let alone 1,000. So therefore we presented what we could today. Inshallah, it will benefit everyone. It will benefit the Sunni audience. It will benefit the Shia audience. It will get everyone a moderate reading of what we're about here and what our reading is and what our views are. And inshallah, we hope the Ummah can unite on this and be fair with each other. So with that, I will leave you. Inshallah, we will be seeing you soon on our next research sessions. I won't mention what they are right now because we're still working them out, but it will be very soon. Inshallah, you'll be seeing us soon again, me and Sayyid Ali Hur. But until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and make sure to like and subscribe on this video. And we always need your support and dua. Keep us all in your duas. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.